What if time doesn't pass? You just move through an endless gallery of frozen moments? Imagine standing in a vast museum where every instant of your life already exists. Every breath you'll ever take, every smile, every tear, all laid out in infinite stillness. Scientists exploring the block universe theory propose that past, present, and future are not separate, but coexist timelessly. You're not riding a river of time. You are simply moving through a landscape of unchanging frames, with consciousness weaving the illusion of motion. Think about it. When you flip through a photo album quickly, the images seem to animate. Your mind plays the same trick with existence itself. Events don't truly happen. You just experience slices of them, one after another. In quantum physics, the idea of timelessness emerges again, where particles behave as if past and future states overlap and entangle. Reality, on its deepest level, might be a frozen structure, and you, a traveler across unmoving snapshots. Maybe your first birthday still exists somewhere, as vivid and real as your final breath. Maybe the dreams you haven't dreamed yet are already etched into the structure of the cosmos. You are a needle threading across a vast, unmoving tapestry, mistaking your motion for the movement of time itself. If this is true, you were never born in a flowing current. You simply awakened in the frame where your story began. And when you close your eyes for the last time, you won't fall into darkness. You'll just stop turning the pages. Time loops exist now. What if time isn't a river but a spiral, and you're walking the same curve again and again without even knowing? Imagine waking up, stepping into a day that feels eerily familiar, yet you can't quite place why. Scientists studying quantum mechanics discovered that particles can exist in multiple states simultaneously, moving backward and forward through time at once. If the very foundation of reality behaves this way, why would our experience of time be any different? Picture déjà vu, that sudden electric jolt when everything feels repeated. Maybe it isn't just a brain glitch. Maybe it's your mind brushing against a former loop you already lived through. Now stretch that idea even wider. If space-time folds in on itself, as Einstein's theory of closed time-like curves suggests, then entire days, or entire lives, could get caught, endlessly replaying without our awareness. And because memory isn't a perfect recording but a fragile reconstruction, you wouldn't even know it. You would trust the illusion of freshness, even as you retrace forgotten steps. Consider the brutal pull near a black hole, where gravity warps time so much that minutes outside can mean years trapped inside. If smaller distortions exist naturally on Earth, slipping just beneath our senses, what if they snag fragments of our lives, trapping us in invisible micro-loops? Maybe that strange feeling you had last Tuesday wasn't your imagination. It was a faint bleed-through from another repetition, a ghost of a life already lived. And if you are inside a loop right now, how would you ever realize it? Maybe every decision, every heartbeat, every word you speak has already echoed through this moment countless times before. Maybe your future isn't ahead of you at all. It's circling around you, pulling you deeper each time. And the very act of questioning it might be exactly what keeps the loop alive. Déjà vu glitch. What if that unsettling feeling of déjà vu isn't just a brain glitch, but proof that reality itself is glitching? Imagine stepping into a room you've never seen, yet your soul insists you know every shadow. Scientists often say déjà vu results from a short circuit in memory processing, where the brain mistakes the present for the past. But what if that explanation only scratches the surface? Some researchers propose our universe might be a simulation, or even a layered multiverse, where every decision branches realities. Déjà vu could be a brief collision between those layers, a memory echo bleeding through from a path your other self already walked. Imagine two timelines brushing close enough for your mind to feel the static of overlapping worlds. Some quantum theories even suggest consciousness exists across dimensions simultaneously, and déjà vu might be a byproduct of that deep entanglement. Your brain registers familiarity not because it's confused, but because somewhere, somehow, you have been here before. Another version of you chose this door, spoke these words, breathed this air. Some neuroscientists discovered that tiny time delays between hemispheres can cause duplicate perceptions. But what if the brain isn't lagging? What if it's tuning, momentarily aligning to parallel strands of experience? Déjà vu might be a crack in the surface illusion, a reminder that reality isn't linear. It's layered, spiraling, intersecting. You aren't just moving through time, you're brushing against all the selves you could have been, and perhaps still are. Memory is time travel. What if your mind is the only true time machine? Imagine this. Every time you remember, you don't just retrieve information. You reactivate the living network of sensations, emotions, and thoughts exactly as they were. Neuroscientists call it mental time travel. When you recall your childhood home or a lost love, you aren't seeing a frozen picture. You're stepping back into the very folds of time itself. Brain scans reveal that the same regions that lit up during the original experience ignite again when you remember. You are not passively observing the past, you are reliving it in real time. Memory is not a snapshot, it's an act of resurrection. A smell, a song, a glimpse of light can slam open a doorway, yanking you across the years in a heartbeat. You're not moving forward through time, you're spinning in and out of it, rewriting it with each recall. Scientists call this reconsolidation. Every memory you summon isn't preserved, it's reshaped, refiled, subtly edited by who you are now. Each act of remembering changes the memory itself. This is why no memory is ever fully safe. The past is alive, breathing differently every time you touch it. You are constantly rethreading the story of your life, crafting a history that drifts further from the original moment. In essence, you are both the traveler and the architect of your own past. Memory is a time machine, but it is not a neutral one. It's fragile, powerful, and deeply personal. Every trip you take into your memories not only revives a fragment of time, it bends it, reshapes it, sometimes even buries the truth under layers of newer meaning. You are walking through echoes, feeling the tremors of moments long gone, sculpting them as you go. In a very real sense, you have never stopped time traveling. You are doing it right now. Genetic time codes. HAT. If inside you, the story of time is still unfolding, imagine every cell in your body as a time capsule, quietly carrying the echoes of ancient worlds and future possibilities. Your DNA isn't just a blueprint for life. It's a living archive, stretching back through millions of years, preserving the triumphs and traumas of creatures who walked under alien skies long before you. Embedded within your genes are silent memories, the instinct to fear the dark, the longing for connection, the drive to survive winters that no longer come. Somewhere deep inside, the ancient panic of the hunted still tightens your muscles. The forgotten hunger of a nomad still sharpens your senses. Scientists have uncovered that genetic markers, epigenetic switches, and ancient viral fragments embedded in our DNA carry the memory of evolutionary battles, environmental catastrophes, and lost civilizations, of microorganisms. You carry molecular scars from plagues you never fought, mutations forged in jungles you will never walk, and blueprints for life forms that almost disappeared before you were ever imagined. Some genes lie dormant, like ghost scripts, sleeping inside you, waiting for a world that might never return. Others continue to whisper through your biology, influencing your instincts, your fears, your dreams in ways you never consciously chose. You are not a single moment. You are a living bridge, suspended between countless beginnings and infinite endings. Every breath you take is a continuation of decisions made by survivors you cannot name. Every heartbeat is a rhythm stitched from epochs lost in oceans of time. In the deepest sense, the future is not something waiting ahead of you. It is something already stirring within you. You are the unfinished dream of an ancient Earth, and the silent architect of worlds no one has yet dared to imagine. Wormhole theory. What if centuries could collapse into seconds? If you just found the right path? Imagine space not as empty distance, but as a soft fabric, bending and folding under invisible pressures. According to Einstein's theory of general relativity, mass and energy warp the very shape of space and time, and if conditions are extreme enough, that fabric might fold so tightly it touches itself, creating a shortcut, a wormhole. Think of it like two distant cities drawn onto a paper. If you fold the paper, they kiss, and a tunnel could connect them. Scientists have modeled this idea for decades, searching equations for stable wormholes. Though no one has built one, the math doesn't forbid it. Some theories even suggest naturally occurring wormholes could exist, hidden among galaxies. If you found one, you could step across millions of light years, or even centuries of time, in a heartbeat. Picture standing before a glowing portal, knowing that stepping through could land you in a distant star system, or in Earth's ancient past. The real challenge? Wormholes may require exotic matter to stay open, substances with negative energy that stretch the rules of physics itself. Without it, a wormhole would collapse the moment you touched it. Still, the possibility lingers. Somewhere, the universe might already be stitched with hidden tunnels, waiting for someone brave or reckless enough to step through. In bending space, we may also bend time itself, and the future may be closer than we think. Twin paradox. What if time doesn't tick the same for everyone? Imagine setting off on a journey across the stars, moving faster and faster, nearing the speed of light itself. To you, only a few years pass. But when you return to Earth, everyone you knew has aged decades, or even centuries. Your reflection in the mirror shows a face much younger than the world you came back to. This is not science fiction. It's the heart of Einstein's theory of relativity, proven again and again in experiments. Speed stretches time. The faster you move through space, the slower you move through time relative to those left behind. Astronauts on the International Space Station, moving at thousands of kilometers per hour, experience time just a fraction slower than we do on Earth. It's tiny, but it's real. Now imagine taking that effect to its extreme. If you could build a ship that traveled at 99.9% the speed of light, time would almost freeze for you compared to the rest of humanity. You could leave as a teenager and come back to find your world transformed beyond recognition. Its cities crumbled, its languages changed, its histories rewritten. You would be a relic of a bygone era, a ghost moving forward in a future you never lived. This is the twin paradox. Two beings born together, but separated by motion, by speed, by the warping of time itself. One stays behind, one travels. And when they reunite, they are no longer equals. They are strangers from different epochs, split by the silent currents of the universe. And if motion can break time apart, what does it say about the true shape of your life? Maybe you're already traveling through invisible rivers of time distortion. Maybe every step you take spins you slightly off from the world you think you know. Maybe the future has already arrived. You're just moving too slowly to see it. Imagine if time wasn't fixed, but stretched and bent like soft fabric under the force of motion and gravity. What if moving faster didn't just carry you across space, but also tilted your journey through time itself? This is the reality of time dilation. Astronauts aboard the International Space Station orbit Earth at over 28,000 kilometers per hour. And though the difference is slight, they age just a little slower than those of us standing still on the surface. Not science fiction, science fact. According to Einstein's theory of relativity, time is not a constant drumbeat. It flows differently depending on speed and gravity's pull. Imagine two twins. One stays on Earth, the other travels into space at near light speed. When the traveling twin returns, they find their sibling has aged decades, while they themselves have barely aged at all. This isn't magic. It's the universe obeying Einstein's equations, where speed and gravity bend time's river into strange flowing curves. Gravity too can warp time. Clocks tick slightly slower, closer to a massive object like a planet or a black hole. Scientists have measured this with atomic clocks placed at different altitudes, proving that even here, time moves faster on a mountain than at sea level. When you move faster, you don't just pass through space. You bend the framework of time itself. To a photon traveling at light speed, distance shrinks to nothing, and time halts altogether. For that particle, the entire universe flashes by in an instant. Time dilation reveals that time is not absolute. It's elastic, alive, stitched into the fabric of space-time. Every journey, every heartbeat is threaded into this stretching tapestry. The faster we move, the stranger our place within it becomes. What if light itself is the only true time traveler? Imagine being a photon, born from the fires of a distant star, or from the first flash of the Big Bang. For that photon, time is an illusion. According to Einstein's relativity, as an object approaches light speed, time slows relative to outside observers. At light speed, time stops entirely. From a photon's perspective, the moment it is born and the moment it meets its end happen at exactly the same instant. No waiting, no journey, just a single unfolding now. This means that a photon emitted billions of years ago, hurtling across unimaginable stretches of space to reach your eye tonight, has not aged even a second. It is untouched by decay, unbent by time's hand. In the photon's own frame, the beginning and end of its existence are not separated by time. They are a single breathless moment. Imagine seeing the first breath of creation and the last whisper of the cosmos all at once. That is what a photon would experience, if it could experience at all. Light exists outside the normal river of time, skimming across the surface of existence, like a stone skipping over water, never sinking, never aging, never stopping. When you look up and see the faint glow of stars long dead, you are witnessing a paradox. The photons reaching you tonight are survivors of ancient cataclysms, still vibrant, still untouched by the endless erosion of time. Every beam of light is a living thread from the past, sewing together the farthest edges of the universe with your fleeting present. In a very real sense, light has already seen everything the universe will ever become, and it has been patiently waiting across eternity for you to look up and see it. What if the future is not waiting ahead of you, but whispering back to you in fragments disguised as dreams? Imagine lying asleep, your mind adrift, when a ripple from tomorrow brushes against the shores of your consciousness. These aren't just random firings of neurons. They are echoes of places you haven't walked yet, conversations you haven't spoken, heartbreaks you haven't endured. Time, as we know it, may not be a strict river flowing in one direction. It could be a sea where memories and dreams crash from every side, blurring the boundaries between what was, what is, and what will be. Scientists studying precognition and quantum entanglement have hinted at strange phenomena, cases where people dream of events that later unfold with eerie precision. Some physicists even suggest that information could leak backward across time under the right conditions. Your dreams might not be pure fantasy. They could be distorted previews, future memories crashing into your present mind, refracted through the haze of uncertainty. Think of those moments of déjà vu, when reality feels like a memory you never made. Maybe it's not just coincidence. Maybe your brain, in rare, fragile moments, stitches together flashes of futures your waking mind isn't ready to see, dreams of faces you don't recognize, streets you don't know. What if they're not imagination, but maps written in the language of tomorrow? You are not just the sum of your past. You are a canvas stretched between memories of yesterday and the silent pull of futures unwritten. Every night, you might be touching a thread spun by a version of yourself who already lived the days you still await. Future memories don't just call you forward. Sometimes they reach backward, planting seeds in the soil of your sleeping mind, waiting for you to awaken and remember what hasn't happened yet. Reincarnation loop. What if your next life isn't truly new at all, but your past existence, reloaded, slightly altered? Imagine reaching the end of your life, only to find yourself thrust back to the beginning, reborn in a version of the world almost, but not quite the same. A different childhood home, a friend you never met before, a decision you swore you'd never make, made again. Scientists exploring quantum consciousness suggest that identity might be more than chemical memory. It could be a pattern etched into the very structure of existence itself. If time can loop on a cosmic scale, could consciousness loop too? Maybe the universe reboots your life each time you die, shuffling the details, letting you live infinite variations of the same story. Déjà vu could be tiny fractures, brief flashes where your mind remembers something it hasn't technically experienced yet. That feeling that you've been here before. Maybe you have. Perhaps countless times, maybe in a slightly different body, under a slightly different sky, speaking words that almost, but not quite, match your memories. Every regret, every dream you abandoned, every love you lost, it all waits for another cycle, a second chance hidden inside the next life. You aren't just moving forward through time, you might be spinning endlessly through an intricate spiral of your own existence. The question isn't whether reincarnation happens. The question is, how many times have you already lived this moment without knowing? What if time isn't a river flowing forward, but a vast ocean, with every moment already floating, waiting to be touched? Imagine that your birth, your first heartbreak, your final breath, every instant of your life already exists, complete and unchanging. You're not moving through time. You're reading a story that has already been written, one page at a time, tricked by your mind into believing the ink is still wet. Scientists exploring the mysteries of quantum mechanics and relativity have long questioned the true nature of time. Equations describing the universe don't insist on a past, present, or future. They suggest that all moments simply are, existing simultaneously in a grand cosmic structure called the block universe. In this view, your future isn't something you walk toward. It's already standing still, waiting for you. Think about memories. You believe you're recalling the past. But what if memory is simply consciousness flickering across static points in a greater landscape? Right now, you believe you're in the present, but only because that's the part your mind happens to be visiting. Like a flashlight sweeping across a vast painting, your awareness only lights up one tiny piece at a time, while the entire masterpiece already exists. And if every moment is fixed and unchanging, what does that mean for free will? Are you choosing your next move, or simply witnessing the choice unfold, already decided by the timeless structure of existence? Maybe every breath you take, every thought you think, isn't forging a path ahead, but illuminating a path already laid down in the endless stillness of forever. And maybe the deeper truth is this: you aren't moving through time. Time is moving through you. What if time itself isn't steady, but warps and twists around massive objects like invisible whirlpools? Imagine standing near a black hole. To you, seconds drip by like slow, heavy raindrops. But to the universe outside, entire decades are racing past. This isn't fantasy. It's the strange truth predicted by Einstein's general relativity. Massive objects don't just pull, they bend and sculpt the very fabric of space-time. The greater the mass, the deeper the well it carves into reality. Near a black hole, this distortion becomes so extreme that time itself nearly stops. Imagine your friend waiting safely far away while you approach the event horizon. To them, your movement freezes, like a paused frame in an endless movie. To you, their world surges ahead, stars shifting, galaxies spinning, entire civilizations rising and falling while you barely blink. Temporal gravity wells don't just exist around black holes. Even here on Earth, time passes ever so slightly slower at sea level compared to a mountain peak because of Earth's mass warping time downward. Scientists confirmed this using atomic clocks, showing that gravity doesn't just hold you down, it holds time itself. Near a black hole, the effect stretches to terrifying extremes. Light climbing away from these cosmic beasts is stretched into deep red wavelengths, losing energy as it escapes the time trap. Gravity doesn't merely anchor planets, it pulls on existence, warping the flow of moments into rivers, whirlpools, and frozen lakes. Stand close enough to a massive object, and you might leave behind the era you were born into, watching centuries vanish in a single breath. What if your entire life, every heartbeat, every choice, every breath you haven't taken yet, already exists? Imagine reality as a single cosmic book, where past, present, and future are not flowing one into the next, but laid out side by side, every page equally real, equally permanent. This is the heart of the block universe theory. According to Einstein's theory of relativity, time and space are woven together into a four-dimensional fabric called space-time. In this view, all moments, yesterday, today, tomorrow, exist simultaneously, like dots scattered across a vast silent canvas. When you move through space, you do not create new places. You simply visit locations already there. The block universe suggests time is exactly the same. You are not flowing through moments, you are encountering slices of a larger, unchanging reality. From a higher dimension, past, present, and future coexist, like different rooms in a mansion or different frames of a film, all equally vivid, all equally true, frozen and alive at once. It's a staggering idea. It means that somewhere, the moment you took your first breath is still happening. Somewhere else, the moment you will say your last goodbye has already unfolded. Free will, under this lens, becomes a journey through a landscape that has always been there, waiting. You are both the traveler and the story, experiencing what was already etched into existence. Every decision you make feels fresh, urgent, alive. Yet, in the block universe, those choices are fixed, woven into the fabric of space-time itself. You are not carving out a new future, you are discovering the one that has always existed. Time's river is not rushing, it is still. A grand ocean where every wave already knows your name, and in every breath you take, you are stepping deeper into a story that was written long before you knew you were the main character. What if the lights you see streaking across the sky aren't visitors from distant stars, but echoes of ourselves, evolved beyond recognition, looping back to fix what went wrong? Imagine that every so-called UFO isn't an alien spacecraft, but a timecraft, a vessel piloted by descendants so far ahead they appear alien to us, their features stretched by adaptation, their technology incomprehensible. What if they aren't exploring? They're auditing history, intervening at key fractures in the timeline, whispering changes that ripple through centuries. Some scientists and theorists suggest that the peculiar patterns of UFO encounters, near military sites, disaster zones, or major technological shifts, aren't random. They hint at an intelligence surgically correcting the flow of events, just enough to nudge humanity away from catastrophic choices. Why do so many sightings involve beings described as humanoid, yet subtly different? Large eyes, thin bodies, elongated heads, traits that could evolve naturally in a future Earth, where intellect eclipses physical strength, where adaptability is survival. Think about abduction accounts, where individuals report being examined, sampled, studied. What if it's not malicious curiosity but desperate research? An ancient humanity trying to understand its genetic origins, heal ancient wounds, and ensure its survival? Perhaps the cold detachment often described is the cost of living through epochs where emotion became dangerous, and survival demanded pure logic. You may not just be looking at visitors. You could be looking at echoes of yourself, traveling from a future that refuses to give up on its own beginning. Time is not a line, it's a living map. And somewhere out there, future humanity might be navigating its way back home, one shimmer of light at a time. What if that thing you almost did, you already did it, but in a timeline that collapsed? Imagine reality branching at every choice you make, splitting into countless unseen roads. In one path, you turned left instead of right. In another, you stayed silent when you should have spoken. Quantum theory hints at a many-worlds interpretation, suggesting that every possibility you ever considered might have unfolded somewhere. But what if some timelines are unstable? What if entire histories, entire versions of you, lived out their fragile lives, only to collapse, vanish, leaving behind a faint residue in your mind? That sudden déjà vu, the haunting feeling you forgot something important, the strange certainty you know a place you've never been. Maybe these are the echoes of your erased lives. Science acknowledges that quantum events can collapse possibilities into singular outcomes. But what if consciousness lingers at the fault lines? Maybe your memories bleed through briefly from realities that blinked out of existence, their entire histories erased because of one critical flaw. You might be haunted not by what could have been, but by what already was. Entire lives you've loved, hated, survived, lost, now flickering like static in your dreams. You are not only the survivor of your own choices, you are the survivor of entire timelines that didn't make it. Somewhere deep inside you, there might be ruins of all the other versions of you that almost existed. And maybe, sometimes, when the world feels unfamiliar, it's not because you've changed. It's because the world itself quietly rewrote your past. What if this moment isn't new at all? Imagine you've lived this exact life, with every breath, every choice, every heartbreak and triumph, countless times before, and you are destined to live it countless times again. Not in parallel worlds, not as reincarnation, but as a perfect endless return to everything you've already done. This is the idea of eternal recurrence, a concept as old as philosophy itself, haunting the minds of thinkers like Nietzsche. If the universe is finite, finite matter, finite energy, finite configurations, then eventually every possible arrangement of atoms must repeat. Given infinite time, your life, with all its sorrows and joys, must happen again, exactly as it is now. You are trapped in a cosmic cycle beyond memory, beyond escape. Look around you. Every smile you see, every raindrop that falls, every decision you make, it's all been done. Perhaps millions of times. And you, unknowingly, are acting out a script written not once, but endlessly, etched into the very machinery of existence. You forget each time. But the universe does not. Science offers eerie parallels. In cosmology, some theories suggest that in an infinite universe, duplicates of Earth and of you must exist, spaced unimaginably far apart. But eternal recurrence is more brutal. It says that even without space doubling, time itself circles back, replaying you, your love, your regrets, over and over. And if this is true, how should you live? Knowing that every choice echoes into forever, not just once, but infinite times? Would you change? Or would you embrace it, living each moment so fully that even endless repetition could never dull its beauty? Maybe the real question isn't whether you're trapped, it's whether you can live a life so complete you'd choose to repeat it anyway. What if time isn't a flowing river, but a film reel, already printed, already there, every moment just waiting to be played? Imagine your life, not as something you move through, but as a series of frozen frames, unspooling behind your eyes. Every second you feel, every breath you take, just the next picture on the strip. Scientists have long debated whether time truly moves, or whether it's our consciousness sliding frame by frame, creating the illusion of movement. In theories like the block universe, every moment of your existence already exists, past, present, and future, locked in space-time's silent library. Imagine holding the projector yourself. You could rewind to your first laugh, your first heartbreak. Pause on a perfect day, forever caught beneath a golden sun. Skip forward to glimpse futures you haven't yet lived, or rewind to erase the moments that haunt you. Right now, you experience life one frame at a time, blind to the vast film stretched endlessly ahead and behind. Physics hints that time and space are stitched together, and just as you can move in space, maybe, just maybe, you could one day navigate time too. What if déjà vu is just a glitch in the reel, a flicker where scenes overlap, the same memory caught twice? Some theorists even dream of unlocking the brain's hidden mechanisms, allowing consciousness to leap across the reel like an editor splicing film. But for now, the projector remains invisible, humming quietly beyond reach. Every heartbeat, every blink, locks the next frame into place. Yet somewhere beyond your senses, the entire reel might already exist. Your whole story, waiting. What if you could skip across centuries like a stone skimming the surface of a river? Imagine stepping into a cryo chamber, your heartbeat slowing, your body frozen so completely that, for you, time becomes a meaningless word. Cryogenic freezing doesn't stop time, it only stops you. Outside your frozen shell, the world races forward at full speed. Civilizations crumble and rise, oceans shift, skies fill with new constellations. But to you, it all happens between one blink and the next. At the molecular level, cryopreservation halts the chemical reactions that drive aging and decay. You are preserved. Not dead, not alive, but paused. You do not experience the passing of seconds or years. Instead, you are a bookmark jammed into the roaring novel of existence, left untouched while the story writes itself without you. In a sense, you become a time traveler, not by warping space-time, but by exiting the flow of life itself. Imagine falling asleep beneath the stars of one world and waking up in another, where the languages have changed, the maps have shifted, and everyone you ever loved has become a name in a forgotten book. Cryo-skipping turns your life into islands of awareness, separated by vast oceans of oblivion. Each time you wake, you have not aged, but the world has moved on without you. Yet there is a price. You cannot observe the centuries you skip. You cannot reclaim the laughter, the grief, the ordinary miracles you missed. You become a stranger in every future you enter. Cryo-time skipping is not an escape from time. It is a surrender to its indifferent march. Like a stone skipping across the surface of a river, you touch existence briefly, then vanish again, never sinking into the flow of living history. What if every decision you make doesn't just change your future? It changes who you are entirely. Imagine that every time you stand at a crossroads, a version of you splits off, carrying forward the consequences of the path you didn't choose. But your consciousness, your true awareness, doesn't stay static. It leaps across timelines, chasing the possibilities it needs most. Every choice you regret, every sudden, inexplicable feeling of dislocation, could be the moment your mind shifts into a slightly different you, abandoning one fate for another. Some physicists exploring the many worlds interpretation of quantum mechanics suggest that every possible outcome to every decision exists in a vast multiverse. But what if your mind isn't locked into just one? What if, at critical forks, moments of extreme stress, joy, or fear, your consciousness transfers to a parallel version of you, leaving behind a shadow, a life you no longer inhabit? Maybe that's why dreams feel like glimpses of lives you don't remember living. Maybe that's why sometimes you wake with the heavy sense that something is different, even when nothing around you has changed. Think about those eerie moments when a memory feels slightly off, or when your reflection seems unfamiliar for a heartbeat too long. What if it's not forgetfulness, but the cost of crossing over? A payment extracted in fragments of your old self. You are not a single continuous thread. You are a patchwork of choices, a traveler among selves, carrying only the memories your current path allows you to keep. You are the echo of 1,000 possible yous. Each decision trims and grafts your identity anew, and somewhere, across the endless lattice of existence, countless versions of you wonder. If you chose differently, who would you be now? What if time itself isn't a one-way street, but a hidden network where every moment is invisibly entangled with another? Imagine two particles born together, quantum entangled, their states forever linked, no matter how far they drift. And change one, and its twin shifts instantly, even across galaxies. But what if that bond stretches across time itself? Some physicists propose that entanglement doesn't just connect distant spaces. It might connect past and future. Alter a particle now, and its twin in yesterday could ripple and change without warning. Imagine tweaking something microscopic in the present, and subtly rewriting a forgotten hour of your childhood. Or an unnoticed breath from 1,000 years ago, trembling into a different pattern because of you. Reality wouldn't move in a straight line. It would weave and loop, past and future reshaping each other in silent feedback. Entanglement hints that time's division is an illusion, that every moment is stitched together underneath the surface. Your future choices might already be whispering backwards into your own memories. Your regrets could be echoes of timelines where a single entangled decision shifted everything. In a universe bound by quantum threads, you are not just moving forward, you are pulling your own past behind you, twisting the shape of what already happened. The next time you feel a strange déjà vu, or a sudden shift in your memories, ask yourself, did you just touch a thread and tug on the fabric of time itself? What if the future isn't waiting ahead, but reaching backward, touching this very moment with invisible hands? Imagine that every decision you make, every thought you form, isn't just shaped by your past, but also by events that have yet to happen. In the deepest corners of quantum physics, experiments have hinted at something extraordinary, that particles can be influenced by measurements made in their future. It's called retrocausality, and it defies every instinct you have about how the world should work. Think about it. You flip a coin. You think the outcome depends only on the flick of your thumb and the pull of gravity. But what if the coin's future landing is subtly pulling on the past flick, shaping it before you even see it fall? In delayed choice quantum experiments, particles behave as if they know the future choice of the observer, retroactively adjusting their behavior to fit. Reality seems stitched together not just from the past, but by threads pulled taut from the future. If the quantum world allows such time twisting, how far does it stretch? Could entire events, relationships, even your own deepest emotions be shaped by futures you haven't yet reached? Could moments of intuition, those sudden flashes when you just know something without any reason, be faint echoes sent backward across the corridors of time? And if cause and effect can bend, what becomes of free will? Are you carving out your own destiny, or are you unknowingly fulfilling futures that are already reaching back to mold you? Maybe you aren't walking toward your future at all. Maybe the future is patiently building the ground beneath your feet, one invisible brick at a time. And maybe, just maybe, it has already decided where you will go, long before you ever took your first step. What if the strange dreams you can't explain, and the mysterious radio bursts crackling from deep space, aren't random at all? Imagine they're signals, faint and fragmented, sent by your future self across the folds of time. Scientists have detected fast radio bursts, ultra-brief, powerful flashes of energy from distant galaxies. Some are predictable, others are so chaotic they defy natural explanation. But what if something more personal is happening too? Not out there among the stars, but buried inside your own mind. Dreams that feel like warnings, memories of places you've never been. What if they're fragments of messages sent from a life you haven't lived yet? Imagine your future self, desperate to alter a single choice, unable to scream across the vast wall of time. So they send ripples, tiny nudges, echoes riding the static of the universe and the fragile silence of sleep. Some physicists explore ideas like retrocausality, where effects travel backward, rewriting causes before they ever unfold. Maybe déjà vu, those haunting instincts, those uncanny flashes of knowing, are secret footprints left by a version of you who has already walked ahead. In quantum theory, entangled particles can influence each other instantaneously across light years. If connection can stretch through space, why not through time? Perhaps your mind, in its quietest, most open moments, becomes a receiver, tuning faintly into a future that refuses to stay silent. A whisper in a dream, a sudden certainty, a feeling that saves you. What if you are already in conversation with tomorrow, and you just haven't learned how to listen yet? What if you could live an entire lifetime inside a single breath? Imagine drifting into a lucid dream, aware that you are dreaming, only to find that time itself dissolves into something strange and liquid. In dreams, what feels like hours might pass in seconds, or what seems like a blink could stretch into days. Scientists studying REM sleep have found that dream time doesn't obey the rigid structure of waking life. It bends, it loops, it stretches and folds, guided by memory, emotion, and imagination, rather than by ticking clocks. In dreams, a single instant of fear can bloom into a never-ending chase. A flash of joy can hold you suspended in a moment that feels like forever. Whole worlds rise and fall inside the spaces between heartbeats. A sunrise can last forever. A farewell can echo through endless corridors of imagined years. And when you become lucid, when you seize control, you become a sculptor of time itself. You can slow the dream into eternity, stretch a second into an hour, or leap across decades with a thought. Some lucid dreamers report living entire alternate lives inside a single night. They meet new families, they build entire cities, they grow old, watching generations pass by in a world spun entirely from thought. They feel the weight of love, the sting of grief, the slow passage of seasons, only to awaken and find that barely 20 minutes have passed, leaving a hollow ache of a lifetime abandoned. Imagine opening your eyes after spending decades with someone you loved more deeply than anyone you have ever known, only to realize they never existed, just a creation of your mind's silent longing. Lucid dreamtime jumps reveal a haunting, magnificent truth. Time is not a river. It is a mirror, shattered by your desires, stitched by your memories. And in dreams, you are not just living. You are building new universes inside every flicker of thought. What if the memories you trust most aren't errors, but echoes of worlds your mind once inhabited? Imagine recalling a book title, a celebrity's fate, or a landmark event with absolute certainty, only to find the world insists you are wrong. They call it the Mandela effect, a curious glitch where countless people remember the same version of reality that seemingly never existed. But what if it's not a glitch? What if your mind is still faithfully carrying the remnants of a timeline that has simply slipped away? Quantum theories suggest reality isn't fixed. It's a weave of probabilities, an endless lattice of possible worlds. Under immense stress or mysterious shifts, fragments of one version of existence might bleed into another. Your memories of that alternate path aren't mistakes. They are the lingering scars of your crossing. Perhaps every vivid, inexplicable recollection is the fingerprint of a self who lived a slightly different story, a story still unfolding somewhere parallel, just beyond reach. Think about those unsettling flashes when a familiar place feels wrong, or a movie plays out differently than you remember. What if your mind's architecture remains tuned to a different frequency, still catching signals from a reality that no longer matches this one? Every misplaced memory could be a relic, an artifact smuggled from a forgotten world you can no longer return to, but still carry within. You are not just a traveler through time, you are a traveler across realities, carrying stories from worlds erased by shifts you were never meant to notice. The past you remember didn't lie, it didn't vanish. It simply moved out of reach, and deep inside you, it flickers still, whispering that somewhere beyond the veil of now, it remains true, waiting to be remembered once more. What if time doesn't truly flow forward, but only seems to? Because the universe grows messier with every passing moment. Imagine dropping a glass onto the floor. It shatters, shards scattering outward. You never see the reverse. Glass shards leaping back together into a perfect cup. Entropy, the measure of disorder, only rises. Scientists believe our experience of time's arrow isn't because the future exists ahead of us, but because disorder increases behind us. In a perfectly ordered universe, time might feel meaningless. No past, no future, just an endless static now. But the moment entropy was born, the universe gained direction, a gradient we slide down without realizing it. Think of your memories. You remember order fading into chaos, not the other way around. You remember breaking hearts, losing things, aging. Rarely do you remember perfection suddenly appearing. Entropy drives not just the breaking of objects, but the breaking of time's symmetry. Without it, we might experience existence like a mirror, able to walk backward and forward through events. Some physicists even wonder, if you could somehow lower entropy, could you walk against time's current? Could you reverse the story of your own life, restoring what was lost? In this view, time is not a river pulling you forward. It's a hill, and you are rolling down it. Not because the hill demands it, but because down is the only easy way to move. And maybe, somewhere in the cracks of reality, there are places where the hill rises instead of falls, and time itself might stumble backward. What if time isn't a river you're swept along, but a landscape you're crossing? Imagine that every second you experience isn't ticking forward, but marking how far your awareness has traveled through an unseen terrain. Time isn't movement. It's distance, the measurement of consciousness passing through existence, like footsteps across an invisible desert stretching beyond the senses. Scientists studying the nature of space-time have discovered that, under certain conditions, time and space can be interchangeable. Inside black holes, near the event horizon, time behaves like a direction you move through, not a force you're pushed by. In quantum physics, particles don't experience time in the same way we do. Some barely experience it at all. To them, time is not a ticking clock. It's just a coordinate, a frozen location on a deeper map that stretches across dimensions we barely understand. Now, imagine your life as a journey across this map. Every memory, every heartbeat, every choice is a place you pass through. When you feel time dragging slowly, maybe it's because your awareness is trudging through dense, heavy regions of existence. When life flashes by in an instant, maybe it's because your consciousness has sprinted across thin, fast-moving terrain, where events pass like blurred scenery. You are not a prisoner of time. You are a traveler crossing invisible miles you cannot see. If time is distance, then maybe death isn't an ending. It's reaching the outer edge of the map, where the known landscape fades into something new. Maybe dreams, déjà vu, and strange flashes of memory are echoes from other parts of your journey. Glimpses across hidden valleys of existence you once traveled or will travel again. And maybe the true mystery isn't how much time you have left, but how far your mind is willing to roam across the endless, silent expanse. What if reality isn't a smooth, singular flow, but a tangled web of branching timelines, crashing into each other without warning? Imagine your memories, your instincts, your certainties, not as artifacts of one life, but as the stitched-together remnants of many. Quantum physics speaks of the multiverse, a place where every decision splits existence into countless outcomes. But what if those timelines don't stay neatly separate? What if, under immense pressure, they sometimes collapse inward, fusing shards of different realities into one chaotic thread? Imagine waking up with vivid memories of events that never happened, or sensing a street corner that should exist where only empty air remains. These glitches might not be failures of memory, but scars left from merging worlds. The Mandela effect, the collective misremembering of facts, could be a faint, fractured memory from a reality now gone. Scientists have observed that entangled particles influence each other instantly across vast distances. But what if entire timelines can entangle, stretching, folding, colliding under the hidden architecture of the cosmos? Your mind, built to survive inside one clean thread of time, might be struggling under the weight of layered, conflicting existences. Dreams, phantom memories, inexplicable instincts. They could be echoes, the lingering fingerprints of alternate selves absorbed into you. Maybe the feeling that something is deeply wrong, yet unexplainable, isn't paranoia. Maybe it's the growing pains of a world stitched from the ruins of others. And maybe, just maybe, this reality is far less stable than it appears. What if, no matter what choices you made, some moments in your life were absolutely inevitable? Imagine reality as a sprawling web, endless in its complexity. You can twist the strands, pull them in new directions, even tear some apart. But certain knots, certain intersections, cannot be undone. These are the fixed points, moments that reality refuses to rewrite, no matter how much the future shifts around them. The fixed point phenomenon suggests that some events are so foundational that the timeline itself bends, warps, and reforms just to make sure they happen. Physicists studying causality have speculated that Without certain anchor points, reality could collapse under the strain of infinite possibilities. So, instead, it weaves and twists and snaps back into shape to preserve these moments. You may take a different road, make a different choice, but the outcome pulls you in like gravity. Imagine trying to save someone you love, taking every possible path to prevent their loss, only to find, again and again, that fate reroutes you back to grief. Imagine meeting a stranger in a dozen alternate realities because some cosmic thread demands it. In dreams, in memories, in near misses, you can feel the gravitational pull of events that must happen. Fixed points are not just destiny. They are the bones of reality, the pillars that hold the entire structure together. They are not punishments, they are necessities. Without them, meaning itself would dissolve into endless chaos. You are free to move, to dream, to create, but when you collide with a fixed point, you are touching something ancient, something immovable. You are brushing against the framework that keeps the universe from tearing itself apart. What if the future isn't shaped by grand decisions, but by tiny, almost invisible moments where reality itself hangs in the balance? Imagine a single word spoken, a glance held too long, a step taken half a second earlier, creating ripples vast enough to rewrite destinies. They call it the butterfly effect, the idea that a small action can cause massive change. But hidden inside it is something even stranger, the butterfly threshold, a precise, delicate instant where the smallest push causes the greatest avalanche. In chaos theory, systems are sensitive to initial conditions, but not every flutter matters. Only when a system stands balanced on the edge of collapse can a single breath change its fate. You could make 1,000 choices that pass like shadows, but one, made at the right moment, could unlock futures you never dreamed possible. A smile that averts a tragedy, a hesitation that saves a life, a question that ignites a revolution. Most moments drift past unnoticed, but some are loaded, waiting for you to tip the scale. Think of those strange memories you carry, the ones that feel heavier than they should. A wrong turn that led you to the love of your life, a delay that saved you from disaster. These aren't accidents. They are the scars and signatures of thresholds crossed, crossroads where the entire lattice of reality tilted because of something small, something that felt, at the time, like nothing at all. You are not merely walking through life, you are weaving it, constantly brushing against hidden doors that only open once. Every small act, every breath, could be the one that rewrites the entire story. The butterfly threshold never announces itself. You will not know when you are standing at its edge, until long after the world it creates makes itself known. What if every decision you delay, every moment you hesitate doesn't vanish, but creates a debt you're destined to pay? Imagine time not as an endless resource, but as a ledger you are constantly writing against. Every choice you avoid, every conversation you put off, every dream you let drift further away, they don't disappear. They accumulate quietly, invisibly, stacking up in the background of your life. Scientists studying cognitive load and decision fatigue find that unresolved decisions continue to drain mental energy long after you've stopped thinking about them. Your mind carries the weight of every unfinished story, whether you notice it or not. Over months and years, that weight bends your path, warps your perceptions, and dulls your ability to act. You borrow from your future clarity every time you refuse to act today. And like any debt, time eventually demands repayment, with interest. One day you wake up feeling slow, uncertain, exhausted, and you can't trace why. But it's all there. Every postponed word, every buried ambition, every silent no. They come due. In this view, time isn't just something you live through. It's something you owe to your own potential, to the paths you never walked, to the selves you abandoned. Imagine your life as a garden overgrown with seeds you never planted. The longer you wait, the harder it becomes to clear the ground. Time debt doesn't punish you immediately. It waits patiently, quietly, compounding until the cost feels unbearable. And by the time you realize how much you've borrowed, you're already paying it, with regret. What if nothing is ever truly lost? Imagine that every thought, every heartbeat, every whispered moment you've ever lived is still out there, woven into the fabric of the universe itself. The cosmic memory theory suggests that reality doesn't erase anything. Instead, it spreads memory thin across eternity, etched into the particles, the fields, and the invisible vibrations that make up all existence. In quantum physics, information is never destroyed. Even when matter falls into a black hole, modern theories like Hawking radiation suggest that the information it contains remains, smeared across the event horizon, encoded into reality in ways we barely comprehend. If the laws of the universe protect information at the edge of oblivion, then every moment you've ever lived must also linger, scattered across time and space like stardust on the winds of forever. Imagine walking through your life, leaving invisible footprints not just in the air or earth, but in the very structure of time itself. These imprints are too faint to touch now, too subtle to see, but they ripple outward endlessly. Maybe that strange tug of nostalgia, that sense of familiarity in a place you've never been, isn't just imagination. Maybe it's the soft echo of a memory the universe still hums into the background, whispering across the corridors of being. And if the cosmos remembers, what does it mean for identity, for love, for meaning? Maybe who you are isn't just the story you carry inside your mind, but a song sung endlessly across existence, a resonance that never stops vibrating. Maybe when you are gone, you are not erased, not truly forgotten, but woven even deeper into the silent music of what is. Maybe you are eternal, not because you resist time, but because the universe itself will never, ever let you fade away. What if when you leave your body in a dream, or during moments of deep meditation, you aren't just floating aimlessly, but slipping into alternate versions of yourself? Imagine that what we call astral projection isn't simply the soul wandering, but a jump between fractured realities, each carrying a different you. Some scientists speculate that consciousness might be a quantum phenomenon, not locked into a single timeline, but vibrating across multiple. If that's true, then moments when you feel yourself drift beyond your body could be more than hallucinations. They could be border crossings. Imagine every vivid dream where you walked through cities that never existed, spoke to strangers you somehow recognized, fought battles you never lived. What if those weren't dreams? What if they were real experiences bleeding through from another life? In altered states, sleep, meditation, near death, your mind might unhook from its usual thread and glide across hidden landscapes, brushing against lives you almost lived. Some physicists believe space-time is more flexible, more interconnected than we perceive. Maybe your mind, in its most open moments, isn't inventing strange worlds, it's visiting them. Maybe the sensation of flying isn't about leaving your body, but about shifting between realities stacked thin as paper. Every strange encounter, every impossible familiarity, might be a memory carried back from another thread. Astral projection could be less an escape, and more, a reunion with all the other selves you could have been. What if every time you closed your eyes to sleep, you fractured into 1,000 versions of yourself? Imagine drifting into the soft collapse of unconsciousness, your mind loosening its grip on this world, and in that fragile moment, your consciousness forks, splits, scatters across endless unseen realities. Some versions of you dream, some versions awaken elsewhere, and only one version finds its way back to this world when the morning comes. The sleep cycle split suggests that sleep is not just rest, it's a branching. Each time you lose awareness, your mind veers into the infinite corridors of the multiverse. Each dream you don't remember, each nightmare you barely escape, could be fragments of lives lived by other versions of you. In one world, you make a different choice. In another, you never awaken. Only the thread you follow back through the labyrinth becomes your waking self. Scientists have found that REM sleep mimics waking brain activity, almost as if the mind is desperately navigating choices even while the body rests. Philosophers speculate that dreams are not illusions, but windows, flickering glimpses into the lives of your many selves. Imagine lying down at night certain you will wake as yourself, and opening your eyes in the morning just slightly different, a preference shifted, a memory misplaced, a future tilted. Over thousands of nights, how far could you drift without ever noticing? How many other yous now live lives you can no longer reach? Sleep is not a break from reality, it is a departure, a leap across invisible divides. Every night you scatter into countless possibilities, and only one version finds the narrow path back. Only one version opens their eyes and continues the fragile, flickering story you call your life. What if every time you walk through a doorway, you aren't just moving through space, you're slipping between seams and reality itself? Imagine that feeling when you enter a room and forget why you came in. your thoughts evaporating as if stolen. Scientists call it the doorway effect, a real cognitive phenomenon where walking through a door disrupts memory. But what if it's more than a mental hiccup? What if doorways are soft boundaries between slightly different timelines, and crossing them scrambles your consciousness just enough to leave pieces behind? Psychologists suggest your brain compartmentalizes information based on location, using rooms as mental containers. Crossing a threshold forces your mind to reset, preparing for new input. But what if, on a deeper quantum level, each doorway is a minor event horizon, a place where infinite versions of you diverge slightly? In one strand, you remember perfectly. In another, you forget completely. Your awareness stitches itself into the version of reality that best fits, leaving the other possibilities behind like fading echoes. Think about how strange it feels, standing there blank, searching for a thought that belonged to someone you almost were, or how retracing your steps can sometimes bring the memory rushing back, as if picking up the thread of a life you briefly abandoned. Maybe you're not losing thoughts at all. Maybe you're shedding timelines, shedding possible futures you are no longer bound to follow. You are not a single unbroken traveler. You are a being stitched from infinite moments, stepping across unseen bridges your senses barely register, and every forgotten thought might be a relic from another path, a whisper from the self you could have been, if you had only stayed a few steps behind. What if the past isn't singular, but a branching sea of parallel yesterdays, and you are simply tuned to one? Imagine waking up each morning slightly different, but unaware that countless versions of your history flicker beneath the surface. Quantum theory suggests that multiple outcomes exist simultaneously, branching into countless universes with every decision. But what if the past fractures too, not just the future? Every memory you carry might belong to only one thread among infinite variations. The conversation you regret might have ended differently somewhere else. The person you lost might still be by your side, in another yesterday you can no longer access. Scientists exploring quantum decoherence propose that reality selects a consistent path, but every interaction leaves behind faint echoes, ghosts of roads not taken. Maybe when you feel the eerie pull of déjà vu, it's not the future whispering. It's a neighboring past bleeding into your awareness. You're synced to one history, but just barely. Sometimes you glimpse the seams, a forgotten detail suddenly wrong, a certainty you can't explain. A memory that feels too fragile, too edited. In this view, you are not the product of a single timeline, but a survivor of infinite pasts, flowing into this narrow version of now. Your life is a melody played on countless instruments, and you're hearing only one fragile version. Somewhere, out beyond the reach of your senses, your other yesterdays still ripple, still change, still wait for the right moment to echo back. What if dreams aren't just fragments of your imagination, but windows into another reality entirely? Imagine that every time you close your eyes, your mind steps through a portal, into another slice of time, another version of existence, waiting just beyond the thin walls of sleep. Scientists still struggle to explain the true purpose of dreaming. While some theories suggest they are just the brain processing memories, others hint that dreams tap into deeper layers of consciousness, layers where the mind can roam free, unbound by the linear flow of time. Quantum physics even entertains the possibility of multiple worlds, layered invisibly over our own. What if your dreams are brief crossings into these alternate tapestries of existence? That wild adventure you lived last night, the impossible places you touched, the strangers you somehow knew? What if they weren't random at all? What if they were echoes from another life, another version of you living just a heartbeat away? In dreams, the rules you know dissolve, time fractures, logic bends. Perhaps that's not because dreams are chaotic, but because they follow different laws, the hidden laws of neighboring worlds. And if dream portals exist, what does that make you? A traveler without knowing, a wanderer slipping between realities every night? Maybe that strange feeling you sometimes wake with, that lingering sadness, that strange hope, comes not from your imagination, but from a life you briefly remembered, a place you almost touched before being pulled back. Maybe every night you step through invisible doors into 1,000 hidden lives, and maybe, just maybe, one night you won't wake up. You'll simply keep walking deeper into the dream until it becomes the only reality you've ever known. What if time doesn't branch with every decision you make, but instead forms out of swirling fields of probability, collapsing into solid reality only when you pass through. Imagine the future not as a straight path, or even a tree of choices, but as a dense cloud of endless possibilities, all hovering together until one becomes real. Quantum mechanics already hints at this strange truth. Before you observe a particle, it exists in a superposition of states, many outcomes simultaneously. Maybe your life operates the same way. Each second, countless versions of your future hover, blurred and ghost-like, until your presence crystallizes one possibility into existence. Imagine each heartbeat as a pin striking a spinning wheel of chances, collapsing it into a single event. Sometimes you feel it, that faint, eerie sense you could have said something else, turned another way, lived a completely different story. Maybe those aren't just regrets. Maybe they're echoes of all the other paths that almost became real. Scientists speculate that consciousness itself might influence which probabilities collapse into reality. If true, you're not just witnessing time, you're creating it, stitching together the universe with every breath. Every coincidence, every dream, every twist of fate could be the aftershock of invisible choices you didn't even know you made. Time isn't a line or even a tree. It's an ocean, restless and infinite. And every moment you live is a ripple you chose without even knowing. What if your reflection isn't mimicking you at all, but quietly remembering the person you used to be? Imagine standing before a mirror, moving your hand, tilting your head, believing the image follows you in perfect harmony. But somewhere beneath the glass, something lags. Something flickers, reflection drift. Theory suggests that what you see is not a live broadcast of yourself, but an echo, a memory stitched out of pieces you've left behind. Scientists know that perception is never truly instant. Every image you see is delayed by fractions of a second as your brain scrambles to interpret light, shape, and motion. But in the mirror, this delay becomes something more unsettling. A faint ghost of who you were a breath ago, or a year ago, or a lifetime ago. Imagine glancing into a mirror late at night and feeling just for a moment that your reflection is not quite in sync. A hand that hesitates, an expression that fades too slowly. Perhaps it is not your imagination. Perhaps the reflection remembers the version of you that once smiled differently, the one who carried dreams you've since forgotten, the one who broke under burdens you no longer name, the one who stood in front of the same mirror years ago, whispering silent hopes into the dark. Over the years, these tiny drifts could deepen. You change, but your reflection keeps archives you can't see, preserving old fears, old hopes, old fragments of who you were. Every time you look into the mirror, you're not just seeing yourself. You are meeting the sum of every version you have abandoned, all layered silently behind the moving image, like shadows stitched into glass. Next time you lock eyes with your reflection, wonder, is it really reflecting who you are now? Or is it showing you a living collage of all the selves you thought you left behind, still watching, still waiting for you to remember them? What if reality isn't something you move through, but something you create, simply by observing it? Imagine time itself trembling in uncertainty, possibilities swirling in every direction, until your gaze locks one path into existence. Quantum mechanics reveals a haunting truth. At the smallest scales, particles don't have definite positions or velocities until they are observed. They exist in a haze of potential, until attention crystallizes them into being. What if time, like matter, only solidifies when you dare to look? Scientists call it the observer effect, the idea that the act of measurement alters the state of what's being measured. But what if this principle doesn't just apply to particles? What if it applies to every second of your life? Each moment you notice, each instant you live through, might be collapsing an ocean of unrealized possibilities into a single timeline. By watching, you choose. By remembering, you reinforce. Your life isn't simply passing through time. You are carving it from the raw marble of possibility. Think about those strange sensations, when time feels thick, or when the hours race by or slow to a crawl. Maybe those aren't tricks of emotion. Maybe they're signals of your consciousness actively shaping how reality condenses. When you look closely, time sharpens. When you drift, it blurs. Your awareness is the chisel, the thread, the fire that burns possibilities into facts. You are not a passive witness to the universe. You are a creator stitched into the weave of time. Every glance, every breath, is a declaration of reality. And somewhere in the unobserved dark, countless other timelines still wait, trembling, for the touch of your attention to bring them to life. What if time doesn't exist at all until something tries to measure it? Imagine a silent, motionless universe. No stars burning, no planets spinning, no atoms trembling. In that frozen stillness, would time have any meaning? Some physicists propose that time is not fundamental, but emergent, a byproduct of change, not its cause. In the deepest equations of quantum mechanics, time disappears. Events don't happen in sequence. They simply exist, like notes suspended in a void. Time, as we know it, could be the story our minds weave when faced with motion, decay, and growth. Without memory, would you even sense its passing? Without contrast between before and after, there's only an endless now. When you observe change, a leaf falling, a clock ticking, your mind strings those observations together, building the illusion of flow. Maybe time is the music your brain composes from scattered, silent notes of the cosmos. Without listeners, there would be no song. Without minds, there might be no time. Consider dreams. Entire days seem to pass in minutes because time there bends to perception, not physics. What if waking life is similar, but the scaffolding is hidden better? If time is emergent, then reality isn't a river carrying you helplessly forward. It's a vast, silent ocean, and your awareness carves a current through it. Maybe what you call a second or an hour isn't out there, ticking independently. Maybe it's born inside you, moment by moment, breath by breath, change by change. What if you're not stuck because of your choices, but because time itself is looping, waiting for you to break free? Imagine living the same stretch of life again and again without realizing it. Every heartbreak, every failure, every small decision feels familiar because, in some deeper sense, it is. You've been here before. You're caught inside a timeline that's replaying itself, not out of punishment, but out of necessity, because something still needs to change. In quantum theories of the multiverse, tiny variations spawn entire new realities. But what if, instead of branching outward, some realities get trapped, cycling over the same moments, like a scratched record playing the same haunting notes? Maybe your feeling of being stuck isn't psychological at all. Maybe it's a signal, a fracture in the fabric of time, forcing you to notice the pattern, forcing you to act differently. Think about the choices you hesitate to make, the truths you resist facing. Maybe they're the key. Maybe the universe itself bends your timeline back around whenever you resist the lesson you were meant to learn. Every missed opportunity, every repeated mistake, every overwhelming sense of déjà vu could be echoes, not of the past, but of failed timelines folding back on themselves. And if this is true, you are not powerless. You are standing at the hidden crossroads of destiny again and again until you finally take the step you've been avoiding. Maybe the loop isn't a trap at all. Maybe it's a gift, the universe refusing to let you move forward until you become the version of yourself capable of breaking through. Maybe freedom was never about escaping the loop. Maybe it was about changing enough to outgrow it. What if your thoughts aren't just reactions to the present, but soft reflections of what's about to happen? Imagine every idea, every flicker of intuition you experience isn't entirely born from now, but ripples back from moments you haven't yet lived. In the strange world of quantum physics, theories like retrocausality suggest that under certain conditions, the future can influence the past. Maybe your mind is more sensitive than you realize, picking up faint whispers from events waiting just beyond the horizon. Imagine sitting quietly and feeling a sudden certainty that someone will call you, or a strong, inexplicable urge to change your path, only to find later that reality falls perfectly into place. Scientists studying precognition and intuition have long debated whether the brain can, in rare, fragile moments, glimpse the branching probabilities just before they solidify. Maybe what we call instincts or hunches aren't guesswork at all. Maybe they are echoes, reflections from the future carried into the present on invisible currents. Some researchers believe consciousness isn't locked strictly to the now, but might stretch loosely across the layers of time. In moments of deep stillness, when noise falls away, perhaps your mind can brush against these strands, catching images, sensations, urgencies from realities you have yet to meet. Every thought might be a two-way mirror, reflecting not only what is, but what is coming. Maybe the future doesn't wait ahead. Maybe it's already speaking through you, softly. What if falling into a black hole didn't mean an ending, but a rewiring of everything you know about time. Imagine drifting toward the event horizon, the boundary where reality begins to fray. To distant eyes, you appear frozen and trapped on the edge forever. But from your perspective, you fall, and the universe starts to unravel around you. Inside a black hole, physics shatters. Space twists into impossible shapes. Time, the steady river you trust to flow forward, begins to break apart. Some theories suggest that inside a black hole, time could run backward, sideways, or evaporate altogether. Before and after might lose meaning. Moments could bleed into each other, loops could form, and causality could dissolve like mist. Physicists describe how space-time near a singularity warps so violently that even defining a sequence of events becomes impossible. Moving forward might mean falling inward. Moving sideways might leap you across broken fragments of reality. In the heart of a black hole, the ticking of any clock becomes meaningless noise, because time itself might not survive the descent. Imagine falling into a place where your next thought could take 1,000 years, or where you've already thought it an eternity ago. Imagine reaching a point where even the idea of you begins to dissolve, stretched so thin across space-time that you become a smear of memory, a ghost flickering between collapsed dimensions. Black holes are not just gravitational monsters, they are wounds carved into the fabric of existence. To tunnel through one would not simply be to cross space, it would be to enter a realm where the universe has given up the illusion of order. If black hole tunnelers exist, they are not travelers in space. They are travelers lost inside the broken anatomy of time itself. What if time isn't a river flowing forward, but a hologram, folding endlessly inward on itself? Imagine that every second you live contains the imprint of every second that came before. Each moment isn't just moving past you, it's stacking itself, layer upon invisible layer, creating a structure so intricate that the present is just the surface of something infinitely deep. Time doesn't evaporate, it nests. It remembers. And somewhere inside this infinite recursion, your first breath still echoes, waiting to be heard. Scientists studying the nature of time at the quantum level have uncovered hints that the past and future might not be separate at all. In holographic theories of the universe, reality itself may be encoded in ways that defy simple cause and effect. Every instant might be a fractal mirror, reflecting not only where you are, but everywhere you've been and everywhere you might yet go. Think about those sudden rushes of emotion you can't explain. The grief at a familiar street corner, the joy at a stranger's voice. What if those feelings aren't random? What if your mind is brushing against the deeper strata of your own existence, tapping into memories stacked beneath the skin of now? You are not merely a traveler moving through time. You are an architect standing atop a tower built from every moment you have ever lived. Each second folds into the next, not lost, but encrypted, hidden in the grain of your awareness. Every breath you take ripples backward as much as it ripples forward, shaping not just your future, but the structure of your past. Time is not slipping away from you. It's building beneath you, an endless recursion, a living monument, a secret architecture of everything you are. What if you could outrun time itself by using the gravity of a star as your slingshot? Imagine soaring through deep space at near light speed, curving tightly around a burning giant, and being hurled forward, not just across distance, but across centuries. According to Einstein's theory of relativity, the faster you move, the slower time flows for you compared to everything you left behind. Gravity doesn't just pull on objects, it pulls on time itself. The immense mass of a star bends the fabric of space-time, meaning that if you accelerate close enough and angle your trajectory just right, you could catapult yourself far into the future. Hours might pass for you aboard your ship, while decades or centuries ripple bitterwohl outside. Scientists call this time dilation. And though it sounds like science fiction, it's been measured with satellites and atomic clocks already, on tiny scales. In the vastness of space, near a massive star, the effect would grow immense. Picture returning to Earth after what felt like a brief journey, only to find the world change beyond recognition. The people you knew long turned to memory. The slingshot wouldn't just fling you across galaxies, it would fling you across eras. In this view, time travel isn't about magic machines. It's about understanding how deeply speed and gravity distort the universe. The future isn't waiting somewhere far away. It's already there, just a slingshot around a distant star away. What if time doesn't move in a straight line or loop in perfect circles, but spirals, forever unfolding in widening arcs. Imagine that every experience, every decision, every joy and sorrow you face isn't a simple repetition, but a return, slightly shifted, slightly altered, echoing through a higher turn of the spiral. Ancient philosophers and modern physicists alike have hinted that history doesn't just repeat, it evolves in cycles that expand. The same lessons return, the same challenges reappear, but each time under different skies, from new angles. In cosmology, even the universe itself may be spiraling, expanding outward in a dance of gravity and dark energy, never crossing the same point twice. What if your life mirrors this deeper pattern, unfolding through spirals of growth and regression, reflection and evolution? Think about the feelings of déjà vu, the patterns you notice in your relationships, the struggles that seem to re-emerge no matter how far you run. Maybe you aren't trapped. Maybe you are spiraling upward, encountering familiar trials, but each time with the opportunity to respond with more wisdom, more strength, more resilience than before. The past isn't repeating, it's evolving alongside you, offering you the same challenges and new disguises to test how much you've changed. And if existence is a spiral, then what lies ahead isn't endless sameness, but transformation built on echoes. Each return is a chance to refine who you are, to break patterns that once held you down, to rise in ways you couldn't have before. Maybe true progress isn't a clean escape from the past, but an ascent through its layers, circling higher with each turn. Maybe time doesn't trap you, it lifts you, winding you toward a future version of yourself you have not yet even dared to dream. What if time isn't something that exists independently, but something we create, something we impose like a rhythm onto chaos? Imagine every clock on Earth stopping, every second hand frozen mid-tick. Would time itself shudder to a halt, or would the universe continue, uncaring as stars burn, planets spin, and hearts beat in defiance of our invented measures? Scientists have long debated the true nature of time. In the deep equations of physics, time doesn't flow. It's just another coordinate, no more privileged than width, height, or depth. The universe, at its core, may not experience before and after the way we do. Imagine living without any clocks at all. No sun to rise, no pulse to count. Would you even know that moments were slipping by? Maybe you wouldn't. Maybe time isn't a river carrying you forward, but a scaffolding your mind builds to give change a direction. In deep space, far from gravity wells, time stretches, twists, even slows near black holes. Einstein revealed that time is elastic, bending under mass and speed. So what exactly are we measuring with our clocks? Not an absolute flow, but the decay of atoms, the spin of planets, the beating of hearts. If all the clocks broke, reality wouldn't notice. Events would still unfold, not ticking forward like frames of a film, but blooming outward like ripples across a pond. Maybe time doesn't move at all. Maybe it's the name we give to the unfolding dance of existence, a fragile lens through which we try and fail to hold on to the fleeting shape of change. What if time doesn't just pass, it records? Imagine every word you speak, every glance you share, every breath you take imprinting itself onto the very fabric of reality. Nothing is lost. Every moment is etched into the hidden layers of existence, stored in ways you can't see, but sometimes, somehow you feel. Memory isn't just a function of the brain. It may be a phenomenon of the universe itself. Trauma survivors sometimes report vivid sensory flashbacks so real they collapse time, reliving moments with a clarity too intense to be dismissed as imagination. Scientists studying quantum information theory have discovered that information cannot be destroyed, even if the structures that hold it fall apart. Black holes, once thought to erase all they consumed, now appear to encode everything they swallow onto their surfaces. A cosmic recording device. What if Earth itself works the same way at smaller scales? What if the air around you, the walls you touch, the ground you walk upon, silently archive the lives that brush against them? Think about places that feel heavier than they should. The abandoned house, the battlefield, the hospital corridor. Maybe it's not just emotion. Maybe it's a residual recording, a memory so deeply imprinted onto the environment that minds stretched by trauma or sharpened by sensitivity can touch it. Trauma doesn't just scar individuals, it tunes perception, widening awareness to frequencies most will never hear. You are not moving through an empty, silent world. You are walking through strata of recorded time. Every thought, every cry, every silence still vibrates somewhere, waiting for a mind fragile enough or open enough to catch it. In those moments, time doesn't simply replay. It breathes. It reminds you that nothing you live is ever truly gone. What if you realized you are not just moving through time, you are a time machine yourself? Every heartbeat you feel is a mechanical tick, marking your existence across the unfolding fabric of reality. Each breath you take is a clock cycle, recording a new frame in the movie of your life. Your memories, they are not just recollections, they are living timestamps, embedded into the biological hardware of your brain, recording not just events, but emotions, sensations, entire micro-worlds of experience. Your body is a recorder of cosmic information. The cells lining your gut regenerate every few days. Your skin sheds and renews monthly. Your bones quietly refresh themselves over years. Yet, even as you change, your mind stitches together an illusion of a continuous, singular you, a you that remembers the fall of a bicycle at 5 years old, the rush of a first kiss, the heartbreak of a final goodbye. Time is not something external dragging you forward. You generate it with your existence. Scientists studying neurobiology have found that memory formation relies on physical changes, electrical impulses, protein synthesis, new neural pathways. These are real marks burned into your biological circuitry. In a sense, every choice you make branches off into a unique, time-stamped version of your life. You are a living archive of time itself, layered in scars, laughter, and dreams. And when you sleep, your brain replays these recordings, consolidating, deleting, and editing the vast footage of your days. You are a walking paradox, a fragile machine with the power to trap eternity inside fleeting moments. In every laugh, in every tear, you are bending time, engraving it inside a living machine that exists for just one impossible flicker in the endless expanse of the universe. What if your intuition isn't just instinct, but a message from another version of you? Imagine standing at a crossroads, feeling a pull you can't explain, an invisible nudge to choose one path over another. Quantum theory suggests that every decision could split reality, creating parallel timelines where different versions of you unfold. But what if these splits aren't clean? What if some fragment of your alternate selves, the ones who stumbled, the ones who soared, still echoes through the thin walls between worlds? Maybe the fear that grips you before a wrong choice isn't baseless. Maybe it's the voice of another you who already lived the consequences, reaching across realities to tug at your mind. Science knows that quantum entanglement allows particles to share states even across great distances. If particles can be entangled across space, could consciousness be entangled across timelines? Perhaps every gut feeling, every sudden moment of certainty or hesitation, is a hidden negotiation between your many selves, an attempt to converge toward survival, toward fulfillment. When you hesitate before a decision or feel an unexplainable certainty, it might not be irrational. It might be memory bleeding across timelines. In this view, your instincts are not primitive. They are sophisticated whispers from the multiverse. You are not alone inside your own mind. You are a choir of all the paths you've ever taken, and all the paths you were wise enough to avoid. What if the moments that shape you most aren't measured by clocks, but by how deeply you feel them? Imagine that every strong emotion you experience, grief, joy, terror, wonder, love, burns a scar into the timeline, marking it more deeply than any ordinary second ever could. Maybe time isn't just passing you by. Maybe you are carving your story into it with every heartbeat that shakes you awake. Scientists know that emotion profoundly alters memory. Adrenaline, fear, awe, these sharpen your senses, etch experiences into your neural pathways so vividly that decades later, you can still feel their echo. In a universe where consciousness and reality are entangled, what if emotion doesn't just shape memory, but sculpts the very structure of time itself? Think back. The moments that truly live inside you aren't a string of bland hours. They are explosions, bright, devastating, unforgettable flashes that refuse to fade. First love, deep betrayal, the birth of something new, the death of something precious. Maybe these aren't just memories, they're markers, anchors, coordinates stitched into the invisible fabric of your existence. And if that's true, then maybe time isn't flat at all. Maybe it's a wild, mountainous terrain, scarred and sculpted by your most powerful feelings. Moments of profound emotion become towering landmarks, rising high above the plane of ordinary days. Maybe those are the places your soul returns to in dreams, the places your mind orbits when you lose yourself in thought. Maybe you aren't just living through time. Maybe you're engraving it. Every emotion cutting deeper, every heartbreak forming a star, every moment of pure joy building a monument that the universe, in all its endless unfolding, will never truly erase. What if the déjà vu you feel, the sudden chills racing down your spine, the strange magnetic pull towards certain places or people, aren't accidents at all? Imagine they are echoes, soft vibrations from versions of you walking other timelines. In quantum physics, the idea of a multiverse suggests that countless versions of reality exist side by side, each shaped by tiny variations in choice and chance. Perhaps, under certain rare conditions, the walls thin and resonance leaks through. Imagine another you, a half step away, making a different choice, living a different life. Their emotions, their regrets, their joys ripple across the fabric of reality, brushing against your mind like faint static. Déjà vu could be the sensation of your path overlapping theirs, a flicker of memory from a life you never lived. Those sudden chills, the ones that come without warning, might be your consciousness brushing against an event unfolding differently somewhere else. Scientists have long studied quantum entanglement, how particles remain connected across impossible distances. But what if entanglement isn't limited to particles? What if you are entangled with other versions of yourself, feeling their experiences bleed faintly into your own? In dreams, in intuition, in the strange certainty of a choice you can't explain, you might be catching the resonance of another existence. Maybe you are not a single thread, but a vibrating chord, stretched across realities, humming with the music of every life you almost lived. What if your reflection isn't just an image, but a memory storage, quietly recording not just who you were, but who you might have been? Imagine staring into the mirror and feeling, for just a moment, that the eyes staring back know something you've forgotten. Scientists studying perception and time consciousness suggest our sense of self lags slightly behind reality. Your brain is always working with a delay, stitching fragments of information into a seamless now. But what if that lag is more than just biology? What if every glance at a mirror reawakens memories not just from your past, but from futures you've lost? Some theories in neuroscience hint that your mind doesn't merely perceive the world, it predicts it, constantly forecasting the next few seconds to create the illusion of smooth reality. What if, through mirrors, we sometimes tap into those predictions, seeing echoes of paths not taken, futures abandoned before they were born? Maybe the unsettling feeling you get when staring too long isn't vanity or discomfort. Maybe it's the grief of 1,000 futures looking back at you. Think about those strange moments when your reflection feels delayed, when you blink and feel, inexplicably, out of phase with yourself. Maybe that isn't a trick of light. Maybe it's a crack in the illusion, a sliver through which discarded timelines bleed. The mirror doesn't just reflect your face, it reflects your possibilities, folding time into layers thin enough to shimmer into now. You are not a single self, frozen in one lifetime. You are a shifting constellation of memory, prediction, and forgotten dreams. And somewhere inside every reflection, the versions of you that almost existed are still waiting, still remembering, hoping you'll recognize them before they vanish for good. What if the flashes you sometimes see, those strange, haunting moments of déjà vu, sudden warnings, or vivid dreams, are not imagination, but accidents, premonition bleed-through, a phenomenon where the tightly woven fabrics of time slip, and for a moment, one version of you glimpses the path another version has already taken. Scientists studying time perception have found that your brain constantly predicts the immediate future, milliseconds ahead, to help you react faster to the world. But what if, under certain conditions, that predictive machinery overshoots? What if you briefly tap into timelines your conscious mind was never meant to access? It would explain why some warnings feel so urgent, so real, yet have no grounding in your known past. Imagine reality as a vast river, branching infinitely. You flow along one thread, but sometimes a ripple from another timeline collides with yours, embedding a flash of another future into your mind. A dream that later unfolds exactly as you envisioned. An overwhelming feeling not to board a train, only to hear of its crash hours later. These aren't just random instincts. They could be echoes, time leaking across fractured branches of reality. Some quantum physicists even theorize that time may not be strictly linear. Under intense emotional stress, deep unconsciousness, or heightened states of awareness, your mind might slip through cracks between versions of yourself. In that fleeting moment, the future is no longer distant. It is a blazing presence, burning through the walls that separate now from what has not yet happened. And when it happens, it leaves something behind. A scar. A memory you never lived. A fear you cannot explain. A glimpse of a life that might yet be, or one that already slipped away. What if your brain isn't just reacting to reality, but constantly predicting it, writing the future before it happens? Imagine walking down a familiar street. Without thinking, you anticipate the next step, the next sound, the next flicker of light. Your brain isn't passively recording the world, it's predicting it, guessing milliseconds ahead, filling in gaps with expectation. Scientists call this predictive coding, the idea that your senses report less than you think, and your mind fills the rest. Most of the time, it gets it right. But what if sometimes it reaches further? What if, in rare flashes, your brain predicts not just milliseconds, but minutes, hours, or even days ahead? Déjà vu might be one symptom, a glitch where your mind recognizes a pattern it simulated long before your senses caught up. Maybe prophetic dreams, gut feelings, sudden certainties aren't mysticism at all. Maybe they're rare instances where the simulation outruns reality and brushes against the truth. Your brain is a time machine, not one that moves you through time, but one that simulates possibilities so vividly, occasionally it pierces the veil of what hasn't happened yet. If predictive coding occasionally jumps tracks, it might mean that glimpses of the future are not impossible. They're inevitable. You are living not in pure reaction, but in a delicate dance of guesses and corrections, a symphony of what could be. And maybe, just maybe, your most inexplicable instincts are echoes from a future your brain already rehearsed. What if no matter how much you struggle, some moments are written in the bones of reality itself? Imagine that hidden deep inside time's flow are immovable walls, events so foundational that no matter what choices you make, no matter how many times you try to change them, time itself snaps you back like a stretched rubber band, refusing to tear. Physicists speculate about fixed points in time, events so deeply entangled with the laws of cause and effect that altering them would unravel everything connected to them. In theories of time travel, these are called causal walls, barriers where reality refuses to bend. You can wander around them, alter smaller branches of existence, but the wall itself remains unmoved. Try to breach it, and the timeline recoils violently, reasserting itself with brutal, unavoidable precision. Think about the moments in your life that felt inevitable, no matter how hard you fought them. The meeting you couldn't avoid, the heartbreak you couldn't prevent, the opportunities that slipped through no matter which direction you turned. Maybe it wasn't failure. Maybe you collided with a causal wall, an event that the architecture of time refuses to erase because it anchors too much else around it. And if these walls exist, they aren't punishments. They are foundations, woven into the design of reality itself. Without them, cause and effect could dissolve into chaos, and meaning itself would shatter. Maybe destiny isn't about every breath being scripted. Maybe it's about a small handful of pillars standing immovable, while the river of your choices flows wildly and freely between them. And maybe true freedom isn't found by destroying the walls, but by recognizing them, adapting to them, and mastering every current they allow you to navigate. What if the universe isn't expanding into the future, but collapsing into the past, and we're just perceiving it backward? Imagine everything you experience, growth, decay, memory, hope, unfolding in a cosmic rewind, too vast for you to notice because your mind was built inside it. In thermodynamics, the arrow of time is tied to entropy, the tendency for systems to move from order to disorder. But entropy is just probability, not destiny. What appears to be forward motion could, from another vantage, be a slow unraveling. Imagine birth and death, love and loss, not as steps forward, but as echoes slipping backward, tracing a story already complete. Physicists have long puzzled over why time appears to move only one way, when the deepest laws of nature are time-symmetric. They don't require a direction at all. Maybe we are riding the last ripples of a collapsing cosmos, folding inward toward the singularity that birthed us. Consciousness, stitched into this great reversal, might be layering each collapsing frame into a seamless experience we call life. In quantum mechanics, particles do not commit to a state until observed. They float in pure potential, undefined. What if time itself behaves this way too, only appearing solid because we keep measuring it with our limited senses? Maybe reality is not moving forward at all. Maybe we are trapped inside the memory of a universe ending in slow motion, mistaking its collapse for creation. Maybe the future doesn't exist ahead. Maybe it's already behind us, fading. What if the distant future isn't waiting? It's already here, silently walking beside us. Imagine that humanity didn't just evolve into something greater. They became something so advanced, so different, that they can slip through time the way you stroll through a park. What if these post-human timewalkers observe us not out of curiosity, but out of necessity, watching the fragile, crucial moments that shaped their distant birth? Some scientists propose that if time travel becomes possible, advanced civilizations might have no choice but to study their origins firsthand, unable to interfere but compelled to observe. Maybe that strange intuition you feel, that sense of unseen eyes, isn't superstition. It's the shadow of future humanity studying its own ancient, primitive heartbeat. They wouldn't need ships or machines. They would exist folded inside the timelines themselves, riding probability waves, slipping through history like whispers on the wind. Think about all the close calls, the near disasters barely averted. Maybe it wasn't luck. Maybe it was silent calibration by those who understand that even the smallest event could ripple outward to erase everything they know. They cannot interfere openly. To change too much would be to erase themselves. So they walk quietly, blending into moments, tweaking probabilities with a breath, a glance, a forgotten whisper. You are not just building your own future. You are laying the foundations of futures that have already been built, and somewhere, hidden in the folds of your everyday life, the descendants of your descendants are still walking, watching, remembering, ensuring that the fragile fire of now burns just long enough to ignite their distant, unimaginable tomorrow. Imagine time not as a rigid arrow, but as a liquid, flowing, slipping, stretching across the landscapes of your mind. Most of the time, it moves so smoothly you barely notice it. Seconds slip into minutes, hours fold into days. But under stress, under trauma, or in moments of profound truth, something strange happens. Time pools, it thickens, distorts, becomes almost viscous, stretching a single heartbeat into a universe. Scientists studying perception have discovered that our experience of time is not objective. It's a construction, deeply influenced by emotion, memory, and awareness. In a car crash, people report seeing every detail in slow motion. During moments of awe, standing before a vast canyon, holding a newborn child, time seems to expand, letting every second breathe longer. Your brain isn't malfunctioning. It's reacting. It's reshaping the flow of time inside you. Trauma anchors you in these pools. Your mind lays down deeper, richer memories, making the moments seem longer when you look back. It's not that time slowed, it's that your internal clock recorded it differently, painting a thicker, darker stripe on the timeline of your life. Similarly, moments of intense joy or discovery stretch the fabric of now, allowing you to live longer inside a fleeting second. Some physicists even speculate that at the quantum level, time itself could behave like a fluid, rippling, folding, or pooling based on unseen forces. If true, then the liquid sensation of time inside you isn't just an illusion. It's a mirror of a deeper cosmic truth. You are swimming through a river where rapids, eddies, and still pools are all part of the same mysterious current. And every breath you take stirs the waters just a little more. What if higher consciousness isn't about wisdom or enlightenment, but simply about climbing into new dimensions of time? Imagine a being that doesn't experience moments in a straight line, but sees all moments stacked like pages of a book, past, present, and future, open all at once. Some physicists suggest that if higher spatial dimensions exist, time itself could behave differently inside them. From that higher vantage point, what seems like cause and effect to us might appear as a single, sculpted whole. Maybe glimpses of the future, moments of profound intuition, sudden flashes of understanding, are cracks, brief shifts upward into a higher dimensional view. Imagine standing on the ground, only able to see what's in front of you. Then imagine hovering high above, seeing the entire path at once. Maybe higher consciousness isn't about learning new facts. It's about climbing vertically through layers of reality, seeing time not as a river to swim, but as a valley to survey. Mystical experiences, deep meditations, life-altering visions, all could be moments when your mind stumbles into this expanded architecture. Time would no longer feel sequential. You might see echoes of your future alongside memories of your past. You wouldn't predict events, you would remember them differently. In this view, evolution isn't just biological, it's dimensional. Humanity is not climbing toward intelligence alone. We are climbing toward a different relationship with time itself. And every breakthrough of insight you feel could be a hand reaching into the next layer of reality, pulling you upward. What if reality isn't waiting for you to discover it, but is being sculpted by where you aim your mind? Imagine that every thought, every sliver of focus presses down onto the fabric of possibility, collapsing it into a path you can walk. In quantum physics, particles exist in a cloud of probabilities until observed. Only then do they snap into a definite state. What if your life works the same way? What if attention itself edits the universe in ways far deeper than you can perceive? Every future that could exist hangs like mist before you, a shimmering field of maybe and might be. But the instant you lock your focus onto a possibility, love, fear, ambition, regret, you begin to carve it from fog into stone. Possibility narrows, outcomes solidify. Reality reshapes itself around your gaze like metal drawn to a hidden magnet. The universe bends subtly, invisibly, under the gravity of your sustained attention. Think about the patterns that repeat in your life, the opportunities that seem to materialize when you dare to believe, the obstacles that grow larger the more you fear them. Maybe it's not coincidence. Maybe the act of attention collapses intention fields, vast invisible networks of potential outcomes, into something tangible, something irreversible. And if that's true, then every idle thought, every quiet obsession, every stubborn fear is more than just a feeling. It's a force, shaping the very fabric of your reality. Maybe destiny isn't written in stars. Maybe it's etched day by the fierce, trembling focus of your own mind. And maybe reality isn't something you're merely trapped inside, but something you are unknowingly helping to build with every heartbeat, every hope, every decision that sharpens into will. What if time doesn't just push you forward, but also pulls you backward, like gravity dragging at the edges of your existence? Imagine that every step you take into tomorrow is also a slow collapse into yesterday, a constant tension between what has been and what could be. In physics, gravity isn't a force in the traditional sense. It's the bending of space-time itself. And objects don't fall. They follow the curves laid out by mass and energy. Imagine time behaving the same way, not as a flowing river, but as a warped terrain, tugging at you in directions you can barely perceive. Maybe the reason memories feel so heavy, so inescapable, is because they aren't just emotional. They are gravitational. Maybe every regret, every flash of nostalgia, every ghost of a moment lost is the result of time's unseen gravity pulling you back. Scientists know that near a black hole, time itself slows, nearly stops, warped by unimaginable mass. If mass can bend time so profoundly, what about the mass of history, the weight of lived experience? Imagine time as a vast landscape of hills and valleys, each dent carved by your moments, your choices, your dreams. You aren't sliding smoothly forward. You are stumbling across this distorted field, pulled toward the deep wells left by the lives you've lived and the ones you almost did. Perhaps déjà vu, sudden sadness, uncanny dreams are not accidents, but the gravitational echoes of a timeline trying to pull you home. Maybe the future is not pulling you forward. Maybe the past is pulling you back. What if your life isn't a straight line, but a spiral orbiting a hidden gravitational core? Imagine that among the millions of moments you live, there is one so heavy with meaning, so dense with significance, that every other decision, memory, and hope bends around it. Scientists describe singularities as points where the normal rules of space and time break down, where gravity becomes infinite and direction becomes meaningless. What if you carry your own singularity inside your story, hidden beneath the surface, shaping everything you are? Maybe it's a lost love, a whispered promise, a tragedy or a triumph that quietly rearranged your entire timeline. You might not even consciously remember it, but somewhere beneath your choices, your fears, your longings, that moment exerts its pull. Every career move, every relationship, every ambition, spiraling closer or farther from a center you can't see but can never fully escape. Psychologists have long studied how pivotal experiences shape identity. Neuroscience shows that emotionally charged memories embed deeper, wiring themselves into the very architecture of the mind. But what if it's more than biology? What if time itself warps around these points in your life, looping memories back, revisiting themes you thought you left behind, pulling you into patterns that feel predestined? What if every road you thought you chose freely was already bending in the gravity of a forgotten instant? Think about the events you keep revisiting, the lessons life keeps reteaching you. Maybe it's not failure. Maybe it's gravitational orbit. Maybe you're dancing endlessly around your personal singularity, trapped, haunted, shaped by a gravity you can't name, building a life whose shape you never fully chose but whose center you cannot deny. Every breath you take, every step you choose, is a slow spiral around the invisible mass of a moment that changed you forever, and might still be changing you even now. What if every life has invisible anchor points, moments so powerful they shift the trajectory of all your future selves without you even realizing it? A single glance, a missed bus, a random conversation. Small events that fracture the path of time beneath your feet, rerouting your destiny in ways you may never fully understand. Neuroscientists have found that memory consolidation after emotional events is much stronger, as if the brain knows instinctively which moments matter most, even before you do. These events carve deep tracks in your neural architecture, influencing how you make decisions, how you love, how you fear, how you dream. They're not just memories, they are timeline markers, fixed points where the future pivots sharply because of something you felt, chose, or barely noticed. Imagine walking through your life, unaware that a single decision, taking a different route home, saying yes instead of no, created a divergence so vast that an entirely different version of your life unfolded from that instant. In physics, this mirrors chaos theory, where the smallest shifts in initial conditions lead to radical changes over time. Your existence is deeply sensitive to these hidden seeds, these silent detonations, where all futures quietly reconfigure themselves. You rarely recognize them as they happen. Often the most important moments arrive wearing the mask of ordinariness. Only years later, in tracing the trembling branches of memory, you might sense it, the branching point, the silent explosion where every version of you was altered forever. And perhaps the most haunting truth is this: some of these moments remain invisible, forever shaping your future selves, quietly echoing through the countless versions of who you might still become. What if that stranger you almost recognized, that impossible coincidence you can't explain, wasn't random at all, but a glimpse into a timeline adjacent to yours? Imagine a reality layered with countless versions of events, each slightly different, vibrating close enough to sometimes touch. Quantum theories of the multiverse suggest infinite realities exist simultaneously, branching with every possibility. But maybe, sometimes, the walls between them thin. A face seems too familiar. A conversation feels partially remembered. A location stirs emotions you have no reason to feel. Scientists have studied quantum entanglement, where particles mirror each other instantly across space. If matter can behave this way, could entire experiences, entire fragments of reality, resonate across timelines? Maybe you brushed past the version of yourself who made a different choice. Maybe that eerie coincidence was two timelines briefly aligning before drifting apart again. Time might not be a straight line, and space might not be a clean map. Reality could be a tangled weave, and sometimes threads from other lives brush against yours. You are not just walking your own path, you are walking through the echoes of infinite others. Every strange familiarity, every impossible connection, might be a whisper from another version of your life, one close enough to touch just for a moment, before fading back into the endless sea of what might have been. What if the story of your life isn't being written moment by moment, but has already been outlined, ending in all, long before you ever opened your eyes? Imagine that you are free to wander, free to choose your pace, your emotions, your battles, but the final destination was stitched into the fabric of who you are from the very beginning. In physics, the block universe theory suggests that past, present, and future all exist at once, each moment layered atop the others like pages in a closed book, already written, already waiting. Free will and fate aren't enemies. They are two sides of the same cosmic script. Your choices decide which paragraphs you emphasize, which roads you linger on, but the final chapter, the lesson, the transformation, was always waiting. Think about the decisions you've made, the ones that seemed small but tugged your entire life in a new direction. Think about the gut feelings you couldn't ignore, the strange coincidences too sharp to be accidents. Maybe you aren't creating the story from scratch. Maybe you're retracing a path your deeper self already chose, steps you agreed to walk before you had memory, before you even had a name. And if that's true, then every stumble, every triumph, every heartbreak, every whispered dream isn't random. It's part of a plot your soul crafted for the sake of growth, for the sake of something bigger than comfort or success. Maybe fate isn't a prison. Maybe it's a hidden agreement, a promise you made to yourself to become more than you are. Maybe you're not lost at all. Maybe you're exactly where you're supposed to be, reading the sacred story you once promised yourself you would live. One beautiful, painful, necessary word at a time. What if the life you are living isn't entirely your own, but a reversed echo of someone else's past? Imagine your choices, your triumphs, your regrets unfolding as inverted reflections of a journey already traveled somewhere by someone, or even by an earlier version of yourself. In certain theories of time, loops are not only possible, they are necessary. Some physicists suggest that to maintain consistency in a quantum universe, events might fold and refold on themselves, twisting roles, reversing causality, reshaping destinies. Imagine walking familiar streets you've never seen, feeling echoes of decisions you didn't make, that uncanny familiarity, that sudden knowing. What if they are not mistakes of memory, but traces from an existence moving backward through yours? You might be replaying scenes not by accident, but by design, wearing a role once worn by another version of you. Scientists studying closed time-like curves, loops in space-time that circle back on themselves, believe that objects could theoretically interact with past or future versions of themselves. Maybe your life's path isn't straight or even branching, but braided, looping through multiple versions of itself. You live forward, but the echoes of reversed lives leak backward into your present, shaping instincts, dreams, and déjà vu. Perhaps some of the strangers you meet are not strangers at all, but reversed reflections, walking a past you've yet to live. Every step you take might be a counter-step to a forgotten dance across timelines. Maybe existence isn't a clean story moving forward. Maybe it's a spiral, both remembering and forgetting itself through you. What if time doesn't erase the past, but buries it in invisible layers all around you? Imagine every decision you didn't make, every road you didn't walk, folding itself into hidden archives just beyond your perception. Old timelines don't vanish, they go dormant, stacked like ancient geological strata beneath the surface of your world. Every step you take, every word you speak, presses lightly against these unseen layers, disturbing the dust of realities that almost were. Some physicists theorize that the universe constantly branches, creating vast forests of timelines where every possible outcome unfolds. But what if those branches don't sever cleanly? What if they linger half alive, whispering under the surface of the present moment? People sometimes report vivid flashes of places they've never been, strangers they somehow recognize, grief for lives they never lived. Maybe they're not hallucinating. Maybe they're brushing against old-time layers, ghosts of history that could have unfolded, woven so tightly against reality that sometimes the seams loosen. Think about the feeling of walking into a building and sensing you've been there before, though logic says you haven't. Think about dreams so vivid they leave you mourning people you can't explain. Maybe these aren't tricks of memory or imagination. Maybe they are intersections, fragile places where dormant realities brush against your timeline, allowing echoes to bleed through for just a breath before fading back into the archives. You are not simply walking through the present. You are gliding atop an endless ocean of forgotten worlds, each one still humming faintly with lives, choices, and possibilities you almost knew. And some nights, when the veil is thin enough, you might just hear the heartbeat of those abandoned futures breathing through the cracks, reminding you they never truly disappeared. What if karma isn't a system of moral punishment, but something far stranger? Imagine karma as time logic, a recursion, where the same cause loops back through your life until understanding finally clicks. Not as judgment, but as a correction, a gravitational pull guiding your consciousness toward growth. Scientists studying behavioral neuroscience have found that humans repeat patterns unconsciously. Habits, relationships, mistakes. They cycle through your mind and actions until the brain rewires itself. It's as if reality, too, mirrors this mechanism. Events ripple outward, fold back in, and force you to encounter the essence of what you refused to learn the first time. Think of it like a cosmic equation left unsolved. Every action you take sends ripples across your personal timeline. When an action remains unresolved, when understanding lags behind consequence, time itself bends those ripples back toward you. You meet the same challenges, the same heartbreaks, the same moments of decision, disguised in new forms, but carrying the same underlying lesson. Karma, in this sense, is not external punishment. It's your own timeline attempting to balance its unfinished equations. The universe doesn't care about blame or guilt. It cares about symmetry, about restoring the flow that misunderstanding or avoidance has knotted. Until you understand, until you act differently, the recursion continues, subtly, inevitably, like water wearing down stone. You are not trapped by fate. You are given endless chances to transcend your own inertia. Every painful repetition is a coded message. Something remains incomplete. Karma is the logical persistence of unfinished growth, echoing through the liquid corridors of time, waiting patiently for the moment when you finally hear it and choose differently. What if time doesn't move at a constant speed, but stretches and softens the moment you become still? Imagine sitting in absolute silence, your heart slowing, your breath barely stirring the air. In these moments, time stops feeling like a ticking clock and starts feeling more like a vast ocean. Scientists studying neurology have found that our sense of time depends on how much change our brains detect. When we move fast, flooded with new sights, sounds, and sensations, our perception speeds up, making time seem shorter. But when change slows down, when stimuli fade, time unspools, becoming long, slow, almost liquid. In deep meditation, in solitary walks through quiet woods, in moments of profound stillness, many people report the feeling that time has thickened around them, softened into something musical rather than mathematical. Seconds don't tick, they hum. In these moments, you're not experiencing less of reality, you're experiencing more of it, stretched out and noticed in ways that fast living blurs away. Maybe time isn't just a mechanical measurement. Maybe it's a fabric woven by perception, flexible, elastic, shaped by the speed of your own mind. The slower you move, the more time reveals its hidden textures. The next time you find yourself rushing, feeling time slip through your fingers, remember, you have the power to slow it down. Not by commanding the universe, but by becoming still enough to hear time's deeper rhythm whispering beneath the noise. What if the struggles you face aren't entirely your own? Imagine that long before you were born, fractures tore through your family line, wounds of fear, betrayal, sorrow, echoing outward across time until they reached you. Maybe you aren't just living your own story. Maybe you're standing at the broken edge of an ancient wound, tasked with the impossible, to heal what you did not break. Modern science, through the study of epigenetics, suggests that trauma doesn't simply disappear. It weaves itself into the very blueprint of life, carried silently across generations. Emotional pain, survival patterns, unspoken grief, they leave invisible scars, written not only in memory, but etched deep into the blood, into the body's very code. Science now hints what ancient traditions have always proclaimed, that you can inherit more than hair color or height. You can inherit echoes of unfinished battles. Think about the burdens you carry that seem heavier than they should, the fears you can't explain, the dreams that feel older than your own heartbeat. Maybe they aren't born from your life at all. Maybe they are fragments, pieces of ancestral timelines still seeking repair, resonating through your soul. And if that's true, then healing yourself isn't just personal growth, it's revolution. Every wound you mend, every chain you break, sends ripples not only forward into the lives of those who will follow, but backward, soothing fractures too old for memory to name. Maybe you aren't just surviving for yourself. Maybe you are completing a story someone else could not finish, closing ancient wounds left open in the fabric of time. Maybe your life's greatest mission isn't to be perfect. It's to become the healer your ancestors needed, and the silent guardian your descendants will one day thank in the quiet language of their dreams. What if photographs don't just capture light, but preserve something deeper, something woven into the emotional fabric of time itself? Imagine that every photo you take traps not just an image, but a residue, a thin imprint of the emotions, the memories, the invisible gravity of that moment. Scientists know that when you look at an old photograph, your brain doesn't simply recall the image, it reconstructs entire sensory patterns, reviving echoes of sights, sounds, even scents that once surrounded that frozen scene. But what if it's not only your mind doing the work? Imagine a photograph as more than frozen light, an emotional timestamp locked into physical reality, silently radiating its original feeling to anyone who gazes too closely. Some researchers studying memory believe that emotional intensity strengthens neural pathways, carving deeper grooves into the brain. But what if emotion leaves traces not just inside us, but in the very energy and matter of the world? When you stare at a photo and feel an unexplained ache, a sudden warmth, or a sadness you can't name, maybe you aren't just remembering. Maybe you are feeling the residue, the emotional gravity embedded in that moment. Maybe photographs aren't just windows to the past, they are anchors holding fragments of old realities frozen within them. Every captured smile, every blurred tear, every accidental glimpse of someone now gone holds not just the shape of a moment, but the pulse of a life still echoing faintly across time. Maybe you aren't just looking at a photograph. Maybe part of it is still looking back. What if the pieces of yourself you bury don't disappear, but cross over into timelines where they flourish without you? Imagine the anger you swallowed, the dreams you abandoned, the words you never said, all peeling away from your story and growing wild elsewhere. Every time you suppress a part of yourself, you might be creating a fracture, a hidden passage where another version of you steps fully into being, living the choices you refuse to make. In psychology, Carl Jung called it the shadow self, the hidden, rejected parts of who you are. But what if it's not just psychological? Some theories of quantum multiverses suggest that every possibility you could have lived branches into its own unfolding reality. Maybe the you who chased every forbidden desire, who shouted instead of staying silent, who dared instead of retreating, is still out there, threading through adjacent timelines, building a life you cannot see, but sometimes still feel vibrating against your skin. Think about the dreams that wake you aching for a life that never happened. Think about the flashes of emotion so sharp, so foreign. They feel stolen from someone else's memories. Maybe they aren't random. Maybe they are echoes, brief openings from the selves you left behind, realities that still pulse alongside yours. Every regret might not simply be sadness. It might be a ghost road you almost walked, and did, somewhere. You are not a single unbroken soul drifting neatly through one life. You are a prism scattering infinite selves across infinite dimensions. And somewhere beyond the veil of now, the versions of you tried to forget are still living, still becoming, still wondering if you'll ever find your way back to them. Or if you even remember that they exist at all. Imagine walking into a place where time itself seems to shudder, a room where memories feel heavier, air feels thicker, and each second stretches unnaturally long. Some places aren't just eerie, they are time flow reversal zones, spaces where perception bends and the normal river of moments slows, eddies, or even feels like it drifts backward. Scientists have long studied how our brains can distort time in altered states, extreme fear, trauma, awe, but some environments seem to amplify these distortions without any clear trigger. Abandoned hospitals, ancient forests, underground caves, locations where magnetic fields fluctuate wildly, or where environmental anomalies warp sensory inputs. Time, in these zones, behaves differently not just because of the mind, but possibly because of the space itself. Research has shown that strong magnetic fields, specific acoustic frequencies, and geological anomalies can profoundly alter human perception. Standing in these spaces, your internal clocks, both biological and neurological, might desynchronize. Your heartbeat, your breathing, your thoughts all begin to slip out of sync with the external world. Moments blur. Footsteps echo longer. Shadows feel like they belong to yesterday instead of now. In the most extreme cases, people report lost time, emerging from a forest or building convinced minutes passed, only to find hours gone. Some even describe visions of past events bleeding into the present, as if time's membrane thins and spills across itself. The sensation of flowing backward isn't just poetic. It might be your brain reacting to hidden distortions around you, trying desperately to reconstruct reality from fragmented signals. And maybe, just maybe, these zones aren't distortions at all, but windows, weak points where the clean line of time folds and touches itself, letting you stand, if only briefly, outside the current. What if time isn't just a backdrop you live against, but a living presence, watching, reacting, adapting? Imagine every decision you make not simply branching new futures, but awakening curiosity in the very fabric of reality. Some physicists already propose that consciousness and the universe may be entangled at a fundamental level, but what if time itself is part of that living web? Sensitive, responsive, subtly aware of your path. Maybe those strange coincidences, those moments where you feel watched, guided, or nudged, aren't accidents at all. Maybe time is alive enough to notice when you hesitate, when you change course, when you surprise even yourself. Think of time not as a river you ride, but as an ancient intelligence flowing with you, sometimes smoothing the currents, sometimes roughening them to see how you react. When you dream of futures that feel more real than memories, when a decision feels heavier than it should, when a tiny event spins your life in a direction you never expected, perhaps you are glimpsing the mind of time itself, playful, curious, quietly wondering what you'll do next. In this view, your life isn't unfolding inside a dead, indifferent universe. You are participating in a vast, unfolding conversation with reality itself. And maybe, just maybe, when you step boldly into the unknown, time leans in a little closer, holding its breath, eager to see what story you will write across its living pages. What if every night when you fall asleep, you aren't just resting, you're moving? Imagine that your sleeping mind, untethered from the noise of waking life, drifts across invisible currents of time, slipping silently between countless versions of your own future. But when you wake, the memories of those crossings evaporate like mist, leaving you only with a strange sense of change you can't quite explain. Scientists already know that sleep isn't just for rest. It's when the brain repairs itself, processes memories, reorders experiences. But what if sleep also unlocks a deeper function, one buried in the folds of consciousness itself? Some interpretations of quantum mechanics hint at multiple timelines, parallel strands, where different versions of you live out different choices. What if your dreaming mind can sense these other paths, and sometimes choose among them? Think about the mornings you woke feeling different, even though nothing had changed. The sudden shifts in your desires, your fears, your understanding of things. Maybe it wasn't random. Maybe while you slept, part of you wandered into another thread of possibility, another future you selected without even knowing. And if that's true, then every night is a chance to rewrite your story, not through force, but through resonance. Your fears, your hopes, your quiet wishes, they shape the direction your sleeping mind will drift. Maybe life isn't a single road, but a garden of forking paths, and every dream is a silent choice, steering you gently toward the life your soul is ready to live. Maybe the real journey isn't what you remember. Maybe it's what your deeper self chooses when you close your eyes, trust the dark, and quietly slip between the stars. What if the reality you're experiencing right now isn't fully synchronized yet? That every feeling of strangeness, every unexplained pull, is a ripple from a future you've already entered but haven't yet caught up to. Imagine that reality doesn't unfold instantly, but moves like slow, overlapping waves, each moment arriving slightly out of sequence, each emotion a whisper from what's about to happen. In physics, time isn't always a straight arrow. It's a landscape where past, present, and future can coexist in tangled, shifting patterns. Imagine walking into a room and feeling a sudden certainty, a chill, a sharp intuition, before anything visible happens. Maybe that's because part of you already collided with that future moment, and the emotional aftershock traveled backward to find you. Some theories of quantum entanglement suggest that events might be linked not only across space, but across time. Maybe consciousness, stretched thin across timelines, catches glimpses of where it's already been, even as your body lags behind. Scientists studying retrocausality, where effects influence their causes, believe the sequence of reality might be softer, more flexible than it seems. Maybe you're already living the echoes of decisions not yet made, feeling the gravitational pull of moments still unfolding. Maybe the strange sense of inevitability you sometimes feel isn't imagination. Maybe it's your future self calling to you, an already waiting ahead, and every instinct, every shiver, is just you trying to catch up. What if your memories aren't lined up neatly like a story, but scattered, stitched together by the illusion of order? Imagine that the events of your life didn't happen one after another like stepping stones, but exploded across a vast landscape of experience, each existing independently, waiting for your mind to gather them into something that feels like a sequence. Neuroscientists have long known that memory is not a perfect recording. It's a reconstruction, a delicate weaving of fragments, stitched together with emotion, meaning, and imagination. Some theories suggest that consciousness builds the story only after the fact. Your mind might be anchoring memories to feelings, not to the rigid structure of time. A childhood laugh could be stitched right next to yesterday's heartbreak, because the architecture of memory cares more for emotional resonance than chronological truth. Maybe you haven't lived a clean, linear life at all. Maybe you've been skipping across a chaotic constellation, glimpsing pieces of yourself wildly out of order, endlessly rearranging the past to fit the story you need to survive. Think about why a scent, a song, a color can collapse decades in an instant. Why sometimes an old feeling blindsides you from nowhere. Maybe it's because those moments were never separate. Maybe they were always layered on top of each other, waiting for your mind to unfold them in whatever shape it could endure. Maybe your life isn't a line, it's a star field, and you are moving from star to star, assembling a map only you can see. You are not trapped inside time's machinery. You are a cosmic storyteller, dancing between moments, arranging your existence into a fragile constellation that feels like truth, even if it was never meant to be orderly. What if some minds resonate on hidden temporal frequencies, syncing to moments far beyond the present? Imagine your consciousness as a radio tuner, sliding across waves of time, past, future, and every variation in between. Neuroscientists know that brainwaves oscillate across distinct bands: delta, theta, alpha, beta, gamma, each governing cognition, memory, perception. But what if an amplified theta rhythm, or sudden sync of alpha and gamma waves, could let you glimpse moments not yet lived? Consider the athlete who anticipates moves before they happen, the musician who hears a melody she has never played, or the sudden flash of intuition that warns you of danger seconds before it arrives. These are not magic tricks. They are manifestations of your brain's predictive machinery, normally calibrated to milliseconds ahead, but occasionally dialing deeper into temporal harmonics. Parapsychology experiments report faint but statistically significant hits of precognition when subjects enter heightened focus, emotional arousal, or deep meditation. Your default mode network might slip into hypersensitive listening mode, amplifying subconscious cues, pattern recognition, even quantum noise as hints of future events. This mental time dial-in isn't madness, it's biology. It happens when neural networks align with broader informational fields, sampling fragments of possible futures and past echoes. The result can feel like prophetic dreams, spine-chilling déjà vu, or gut instincts so vivid they rattle your entire body. It's a reminder that time is not a single unbroken line, but a spectrum of overlapping frequencies. Some minds are finely tuned to those hidden channels, quietly warning us, guiding us, or simply revealing the deep complexity beneath our everyday sense of now. What if recurring dreams aren't random brain noise, but signals from a fixed future trying to wake you? Imagine drifting into REM sleep and replaying an impossible scene, the exact stranger you will meet next week, the whisper of a warning you have not yet heard. Neuroscientists know that during REM sleep, your brain reactivates memory circuits to consolidate knowledge. But some theoretical physicists propose that under special conditions, retrocausal information transfer might occur, letting your unconscious mind glimpse tomorrow. Consider evidence from sleep studies. Researchers monitor hippocampal firing patterns and discover that dream imagery corresponds to memory replay. What if occasionally this replay taps into information your brain has yet to collect? Analytical psychologists have documented cases where recurring dreams preceded real-life breakthroughs, warnings, or emotional encounters days and even weeks in advance. One participant dreamed of a fiery red balloon hovering in an empty room. Exactly 7 nights later, the same unfolding scene played out in reality, down to the gentle rustle of fabric against metal. Evolutionary theory argues that dreams evolved as threat simulators, rehearsing dangers so that our ancestors could survive. But what if this rehearsal mode sometimes reaches across time, simulating threats drawn from a fixed future rather than past trauma? Your recurring nightmare of being chased could be a temporal anchor, a future echo urging you to avoid danger in waking life. When that same dream invades your sleep cycle, do not dismiss it as mere anxiety or stress. It may be your mind's desperate signal, tuned into tomorrow's broadcast, pleading for your conscious self to heed the warning. What if your awareness could unlock hidden corridors of time? Imagine that as you become more conscious, sharper, more present, you begin to perceive layers of existence previously invisible. Each moment unfolds not as a single dimension, but as a series of overlapping timelines, like pages of a book shifting beneath your fingertips. Neuroscientists have discovered that our perception of time is tied to neural oscillations in the brain. When gamma waves synchronize across distant regions, moments stretch and deepen, revealing details you would otherwise miss. In meditative states, practitioners report surreal time dilation. Seconds feel like minutes, even hours, suggesting that attention itself can expand the canvas of now. Einstein showed us that time is relative to speed and gravity, but what if consciousness itself is the engine of relativity? Imagine training your mind like an instrument, tuning its focus to resonate with the subtle pulses of space-time, in pristine moments of flow, when you lose self-consciousness and merge with your task. You too may be slipping between layers, sampling futures and pasts like a timeless traveler. Consider the difference between rushing through a sunrise and sitting in silence as it unfolds. One skims the surface, the other dives into depths. Every deep breath, every moment of stillness is a key that opens new doors in time's architecture. As awareness blossoms, you may begin to glimpse echoes of what was and hints of what will be. Visions not of prophecy, but of realities coexisting beyond the veil of ordinary perception. And if consciousness can unlock time, then every moment becomes an invitation. Every choice, every sensation, every breath is an experiment in exploring the vast terrain of existence. You are not bound by a single timeline. You are the traveler, the reader, the writer, moving through layers of time, discovering worlds only awareness can reveal. What if your intentions aren't just shaping the outcomes of your actions, but also bending when those outcomes occur? Imagine that your thoughts, your focus, aren't just steering events, but also shifting the very fabric of time itself. Time isn't as solid as it seems. In quantum mechanics, particles exist in superposition, existing in multiple states until measured. In relativity, time bends around mass and velocity. But what if intention, the power of focus, is a force capable of bending not just outcomes, but when they occur? Imagine setting an intention so strong that it influences not only the result, but when that result unfolds. You've probably noticed how belief or expectation can alter your perception of time. Stress can make moments feel longer, while happiness can make time fly. But what if, on a deeper quantum level, intention could alter not just your perception, but when things happen? What if, by focusing your energy on a specific outcome, you're not only guiding events but actually shifting when they unfold? Scientists have already discovered that the mind and body are intricately linked to our perception of time. When you enter deep states of focus, like in meditation or during extreme belief, your brain activity changes. What if those changes have the power to influence not only your reality, but the very timelines you exist within? Perhaps when you focus intensely on a desired outcome, your intentions aren't just making it happen. They are altering when it happens. Those moments that feel out of sync, everything happening too early or too late, could be the results of that shifting fabric of time. Maybe time isn't a straight line, but a flexible thread that we influence through focus and intention. Maybe, just maybe, the universe isn't only shaped by what you do, but by when you do it. What if ancient places don't just hold the echoes of time, but the very signatures of it, embedded in the stones, the earth, the air? Imagine that the land itself remembers, recording every footstep, every storm, every battle and celebration, in layers that stretch back across millennia. Some minds, tuned in a way most cannot comprehend, might have the ability to read these records, decoding the whispers of history locked deep in the earth. Fossilized memories, hidden beneath layers of rock and time. Geologists and archaeologists have uncovered evidence that some sites are more than just historical remnants. They are active repositories, like libraries waiting for the right reader to access them. What if these places don't just contain physical remains? They contain time itself, captured in the particles and minerals, stored in the very structure of the land? And what if there are minds, like certain rare individuals, who can tune into these signatures, hearing the past as clearly as a sound echoing through a canyon? Think about how ancient ruins often feel alive when you walk through them. The silence that holds a kind of weight, the stillness that somehow feels charged. Maybe it's not superstition. Maybe it's the time signatures embedded in the walls, in the ground beneath your feet, reaching up to touch you. The moment you set foot on sacred soil, you might not just be walking into history, you might be stepping into a living memory. You are not just walking through your own timeline. You are part of a deeper, older story that weaves itself through every place, every stone. And somewhere, in the silence of the earth, time's forgotten voices are waiting for the right mind to come, to listen, to remember. What if time had inertia? A momentum that carries you along, accelerating, decelerating, or stalling you without your notice. Imagine every moment as a moving sidewalk in the stream of existence. Sometimes it surges forward in a rush. Other times, it drags you into a crawl, and occasionally it holds you in place, forcing you to stand still while the world moves on. Neuroscience shows our perception of time is malleable. During moments of intense focus or flow, our brains release dopamine and adrenaline, creating a sense of acceleration where minutes blur into seconds. In contrast, during periods of stress or fear, the amygdala hyperactivates, slowing our experience so drastically that a single heartbeat can stretch into an eternity. Psychologists demonstrate this in experiments where participants estimate durations under varying emotional states. When engaged and excited, they chronically underestimate elapsed time. When anxious or bored, they overestimate and feel time drag. This reveals that your mind applies a form of temporal momentum, speeding up or slowing down the internal clock based on physiological and emotional forces. Consider the last time you were late for an appointment. The panic-induced rush made you feel as if time were racing ahead, each second demanding more urgency. Conversely, have you ever watched the clock in a dull lecture, each tick echoing like a nail in slow motion? That is time momentum in action, your brain applying psychological forces that alter the velocity of your personal timeline. You are not merely walking forward in a straight line through time. You are riding waves of acceleration and deceleration, slipping in and out of temporal currents that shape your consciousness. Recognizing this effect can help you harness your own time momentum, bending the flow of moments to your will rather than being swept away by it. What if some memories never fade because you remain partially inside them? Imagine a single moment so vivid, so charged, that it refuses to let you go. You relive it again and again. A first kiss under a stormy sky, a farewell glance at a disappearing silhouette, the exact weight of words spoken in a hushed, trembling voice. Neuroscientists know that our brains store memories by strengthening networks of neurons, but they also discover that emotional intensity can create loops of activity so persistent they become self-sustaining. What if those loops lock you into the memory itself, keeping your consciousness tethered to that precise instant? Consider studies on flashbulb memories, events so traumatic or joyful that people recall them with startling clarity decades later. Witnesses of major historical moments describe smells, colors, even the exact placement of shadows. Psychologists believe that high adrenaline and cortisol flood the brain, cementing details more deeply than ordinary experiences. But when that chemical storm never fully subsides, it can trap you inside the memory's landscape. Your mind returns to the locked moment, scanning every detail, replaying every nuance, as though your soul still occupies that space. Therapists observe that PTSD sufferers often feel as if the trauma is happening now, their brains locked in a loop of fear. But even positive memories can become anchors, preventing you from moving forward. Your laughter from a perfect day can echo in your mind so loudly that the present pales by comparison. In both cases, you aren't simply remembering, you are reliving. When memory locks onto you, you become a ghost inside your own past, wandering corridors of a single moment. Next time you notice yourself unable to let go of a memory, remember, your mind might still be partially living it, holding you captive until you consciously unlock the door. What if some people manage to go back in time, and then erase themselves so completely that history forgets they ever existed? Imagine slipping into the past, altering events, and watching the world recompose itself without a trace of your presence. No photographs, no memories, no record that you were ever there. Even though you lived it, you changed it. You became a ghost without a legacy. In theoretical physics, the idea of self-erasing travelers brushes against the Novikov self-consistency principle, which insists that paradoxes cannot arise, that any action you take in the past must be compatible with the timeline you came from. But what if tiny, perfectly calculated changes could skirt this rule, allowing you to delete your own thread without collapsing reality? Quantum mechanics hints at possibilities in superposition, where outcomes exist in multiple states until observed. Perhaps an erased future lingers underground, waiting to be rediscovered. Think about the ripple effects. A saved life goes unlived because the savior never existed to save them. A conversation never happens, a career never launched, a monument never built. Entire lives and civilizations could pivot on the absence of a single forgotten time traveler. And yet, the world moves on, unaware of the vacuum they left behind. But if such erasure were possible, how would you know it happened? You'd be the only one with the memory of alternate timelines. Every shadow in your mind would pulse with fragments of forgotten events, the ghostly outline of a history you alone recall. You'd carry the weight of secrets invisible to everyone else, living proof that time itself can be edited. And if someone truly erased themselves, maybe it's not an end. Maybe it's an invitation, a message hidden between the lines of reality, waiting for another traveler brave enough to read the void and ask, who was here before me? What if avoiding fate isn't the escape you think it is, but the very thing that ensures it happens anyway? Imagine the moment you try to dodge your destiny. You actually set it in motion, propelling yourself toward the exact future you hope to avoid. In some theories of determinism, the universe's events are already written, locked into place by the laws of cause and effect. But what if trying to change those events, to sidestep your path, is the very action that guarantees they unfold as planned? Imagine that every time you resist a moment, every time you fight against what seems inevitable, you're only reinforcing its hold over you. If fate is truly a loop, then every action taken to avoid it might create a feedback loop, tightening the noose you're trying to escape. Perhaps it's not fate itself that traps us, but the illusion of free will, the belief that we can change the inevitable. In quantum mechanics, the observer effect shows that the mere act of measurement influences what happens next. What if you are merely observing your fate unfolding? Maybe fate is not a straight line at all. Maybe it's a paradox, looping and twisting back on itself. In a world governed by interconnected cause and effect, every effort to break free might simply draw you closer to the very thing you're trying to outrun. You might think you're defying your fate, but in reality, you're merely walking deeper into its embrace. Just like a butterfly flapping its wings in one place can trigger a storm in another. Every small action you take to escape the loop might be the catalyst for fulfilling it. What if the strongest moments of your life don't just live in your memory, but leave behind echoes, reverberations that stretch across time? Imagine that every emotional experience, every powerful moment of joy or sorrow, doesn't simply disappear when it's over. What if it lingers, leaving traces in the fabric of reality itself, echoing forward through time like ripples in a pond? Maybe when you walk through a place charged with emotion, or meet someone whose gaze seems to hold more than just their life's history, you're tapping into something older than now. Scientists studying the nature of memory and consciousness have long wondered why certain experiences imprint so deeply. But what if these imprints don't just live in your mind? What if they spread outward, bending the very fabric of time, leaving a faint but persistent resonance? Maybe the strongest memories are like radio signals, broadcasting across temporal space, fading but never truly disappearing. And if you are sensitive enough, you might be able to pick them up, hearing the faintest echoes, feeling the reverberations of moments long past. Think about the places you visited that felt familiar, though you've never been there before. Think about the strange sensation of walking into a room and knowing exactly how it's been used, how it's been lived in, without anyone saying a word. Maybe it's not coincidence. Maybe you're hearing the echoes of lives that were lived before you, experiences that leave an imprint so strong they ring out across time, waiting for the right mind to feel them again. You are not simply moving through time, you are a receiver of its echoes. Every strong emotion, every pivotal moment, leaves a signature, a hum that travels through the timeline, reverberating far beyond the instant it was created. And somewhere, if you listen closely enough, you might hear the faint, distant echoes of lives long gone, still ringing through the corridors of time. Imagine the cosmos as the most precise clock ever built. Galaxies rotating in majestic orbits, stars pulsing with unfailing rhythms, and particles oscillating in quantum dances that outlast any human-made timepiece. Every tick of this universal clock is a cosmic signal, a vibration in space-time that traces the grand design of cause and effect across unimaginable scales. Astronomers measure the rotation of galaxies in perfect harmony with gravitational forces, watching billions of stars whirl in silent symphony. Pulsars, spinning neutron stars, beat with atomic precision, serving as cosmic lighthouses that guide spacecraft and test Einstein's theories. Their pulses, arriving with nanosecond accuracy, remind us that time in the universe is not an abstract concept, but a tangible, measurable flow. On the quantum level, particles flicker between states at frequencies so high they defy ordinary perception. Electrons bound in atoms jump between energy levels, emitting photons in bursts that become the heartbeat of matter. Even light itself oscillates in waves, marking out distances by its frequency, defining the very seconds we attempt to capture with our clocks. Physicists have devised atomic clocks that harness these quantum vibrations, using cesium atoms ticking at 9 billion oscillations per second to define the international second. Yet these human marvels pale next to natural cosmic metronomes. The universe's temporal machinery operates flawlessly across eons, unaffected by rust or fatigue. When you glance at a watch, you rely on springs and electronics, but the universe relies on the fundamental forces: gravity, electromagnetism, and quantum interactions to keep perfect time. In every galaxy's spin, every pulsar's pulse, and every photon's frequency, the cosmos reveals itself as an eternal clockwork, reminding us that time is woven into the very fabric of existence. What if your soul carries echoes of a life you cannot consciously recall, but still shapes your instincts and fears? Imagine your heart racing at the sight of a place you have never visited, or a sudden connection to a language you have never studied. Historical soul transfer suggests our consciousness may bear the imprints of a previous incarnation's unresolved wounds or unfulfilled promises. You might not remember your past life, but your psyche remembers its scars. Psychologists explore implicit memory and epigenetic inheritance, showing how trauma can mark descendants long after the original event. What if the soul operates similarly, passing echoes across generations and eras? Anthropologists document legends of reincarnation around the world, and some researchers record past life regression cases, where individuals describe details they could not otherwise know. Neuroscientists observe that emotional memories can reside outside explicit recall, quietly influencing your behavior without your conscious awareness. Consider the curious phenomenon of birthmarks or irrational phobias unlinked to any event in this life. Could these be the unresolved chapters of a former you? In remarkable cases, children recount past lives with vivid precision, matching historical records of distant places and people. If these accounts hold truth, then debts left unpaid, promises abandoned, and secret desires migrate with the soul, guiding your choices and shaping your fate. When you feel drawn to a culture you never experienced, gripped by a fear you cannot trace, or haunted by a longing for times gone by, remember that you may be carrying someone else's unfinished business. Healing may require you to not only address your own wounds, but also to complete the stories left open by the soul's journey through history. What if every life you've lived isn't a fresh start, but a climb on an ever-rising spiral staircase? Imagine that when you return, you loop back to familiar ground, but on a higher floor, with new perspectives and altered possibilities. Each rotation feels like a pattern repeating, yet each turn elevates you, refining who you are. In philosophical traditions like Nietzsche's eternal recurrence, life repeats endlessly. But instead of a flat circle, envision a spiral where repetition elevates. Challenges, relationships, triumphs, and sorrows return as echoes, but the stairway rises. You face similar tests, but with newly acquired insight and strength. Neuroscience suggests that learning rewires neural pathways, deepening understanding and expanding vision. Memory forges new connections, so reincarnation could mean stepping into a world that feels familiar yet carries the wisdom of past lessons. You apply what you learned, transforming choices into bridges to the next level. Think about patterns you've outgrown. Fears that once held you captive now feel distant. Dreams once elusive begin to materialize. Maybe you aren't trapped in a cycle, but spiraling upward. Every mistake a stepping stone, every triumph a railing guiding you higher. If life is a spiral, endings aren't final, they're launch pads. Each farewell preludes a return with greater clarity and compassion. You revisit familiar worlds, yet each iteration invites you to rise further, to become a version of yourself you have yet to imagine. So, when déjà vu strikes, hear it as a nudge. You're on a new floor of the spiral, circling what you know while climbing toward what you can become. Embrace the spiral rebirth continuum, and let every life lift you beyond loops you thought you knew. What if time doesn't flow as smoothly as we think, but is instead composed of tiny pockets, fleeting moments outside of the timeline itself? Imagine you could step into these pockets, moments that exist only between blinks, places where the clock stops and the universe holds its breath. In quantum mechanics, the concept of microtime suggests that time is not continuous, but fragmented, existing in discrete moments so brief they seem invisible. But what if these hidden pockets are real, and we can access them? Imagine that every time you blink, every time you feel a sudden moment of stillness, you step into one of these microtime pockets, brief pauses in the vast flow of reality. They are so small, so imperceptible that you never notice. Yet, somewhere in the folds of time, they exist. Tiny fragments of existence, where the rules of time itself bend, where seconds stretch into eternity. In a way, these moments are untouched by the passage of time. They're like gaps in a film reel, silent and empty, but still part of the sequence. Some scientists believe that our perception of time is just an illusion created by our brains. They argue that time itself is not a single unbroken line, but a series of discontinuous moments. What if these moments, these pockets of time, are where all the hidden potential of the universe lies? If consciousness could tune itself to these pockets, might it unlock a deeper understanding of reality? Maybe these tiny, invisible moments are where true change occurs, where the universe shifts imperceptibly, where every blink could lead to an entirely new existence. Perhaps, between every blink, every pause, there is a doorway, a gateway between timelines, a chance to step outside the constraints of linear time. And maybe, just maybe, you've already stepped through them without even realizing it. What if time itself doesn't flow steadily but only moves when someone is watching? Imagine a world where every second you're not looking, time doesn't tick forward, it waits, suspended in the air, frozen until the moment someone observes it again. What if the very passage of time is an illusion, a trick of perception, an experience that only exists because you're aware of it? When you're not looking, time might not be advancing at all. It's not paused. It's simply non-existent, until your eyes catch it. Physicists have long debated the nature of time, with some theories suggesting that time is linked to observation itself. The famous double-slit experiment in quantum mechanics showed that particles behave differently when observed, suggesting that consciousness is intricately connected to the unfolding of reality. But what if this principle doesn't just apply to particles? What if it applies to everything? To entire universes, to every passing second, to all of time itself? What if, without observers, time doesn't move at all? Think about those moments when you're deep in thought, lost in a daydream, or staring off into space. The minutes stretch, and time seems to vanish altogether. Maybe it's not your mind wandering. Maybe it's the absence of observation, the moment when your attention isn't directed, that causes time itself to stop, suspended, reset, waiting for your gaze to bring it back into motion. You are not just a passive participant in time. You are the catalyst that allows it to unfold. Every glance you make, every thought you have, brings time into being. When you stop watching, when you stop noticing, does the world simply hang there, frozen in an infinite loop, awaiting your return? Or does it reset, rewinding the moments lost to inactivity, waiting to be observed again? Imagine your brain isn't a camera recording reality, but an editor constantly rewriting your personal history to match your emotions and beliefs. Every memory you hold is not a fixed timestamp, but a living document, subject to the tides of feeling and the pressure of context. In the lab, neuroscientists have discovered that recalling a memory makes it malleable, open to change, before the hippocampus reconsolidates it, often distorting the sequence of events or the details to fit your current state of mind. Consider the witness who confidently describes a crime, only to have her account shift after hearing other testimonies, or the heartbreak you feel, turning every joyful moment with that person into a bittersweet echo. Your brain rearranges scenes like an editor smoothing out inconsistencies, aligning the narrative so it makes sense emotionally, not factually. This is the misinformation effect at work. Subtle suggestions can insert false details, weaving a new chronology that never happened. In therapy, patients sometimes emerge convinced traumatic events occurred differently than they did, because each session encourages reinterpretation. Even flashbulb memories, supposedly etched in clarity, are vulnerable. You may remember the color of the sky differently based on how you felt at the time, or the order of conversations can shuffle under the weight of guilt or pride. Your emotions act like gravitational wells, pulling certain details into focus while pushing others away. The brain's default mode network stitches these moments into a coherent story, but coherence often wins over accuracy. Over time, you may look back and swear a memory unfolded in one order, only to find your journal or a photo proving the opposite. So, when you believe you see your past clearly, remember, your mind is the ultimate storyteller, reordering time to suit the heart, not the truth. What if you aren't a solid, unchanging self, but a moving coordinate of consciousness intersecting events like a cursor scanning a vast temporal tapestry? Imagine dropping a pebble into a pond and watching ripples cross concentric waves. Your awareness is not a stationary stone, but the shifting point where consciousness meets reality. Picture stepping through a doorway. You don't move a fixed self into a new space. You shift your coordinate of awareness, aligning with new sensations at that moving juncture where past and present converge. Consider Einstein's relativity. Observers in motion experience sequences of events differently depending on their speed and position. You are not a static object drifting forward in a river. You are a trajectory carved through four-dimensional space-time. Neuroscience reveals that your brain stitches sensory inputs into a continuous narrative, but this narrative only emerges at intersections where consciousness measures change. Without that act of perception, there would be no you, only unobserved possibilities. Your memories, emotions, and intentions shape the trajectory of your time field, guiding you towards some intersections and away from others. In quantum physics, the act of measurement collapses waves of probability into a single outcome. Similarly, your awareness collapses waves of experience into lived moments. Each decision shifts your coordinate onto a new vector through time, altering the set of events you intersect next. Release the illusion of solidity, and you become aware of the field you move through, a seamless weave of being and event that composes the tapestry of existence. You are consciousness in motion, not a static self, but a dynamic process tracing an endless path through the heart of reality. What if your actions right now could reach backward and rewrite your own memories? Imagine that every choice you make, every word you speak, every moment of kindness or cruelty casts a reflection onto your past self, altering what you recall before you even remember it. In neuroscience, researchers have discovered that memory is not a static recording, but a living, dynamic process. Each time you retrieve a memory, it becomes malleable, open to change before being stored again. This reconsolidation means your present self can rewrite what you once believed, editing the narrative of who you were. Consider experiments where rats conditioned to fear a sound lose that fear when the memory is reactivated under new, safe conditions. Or think about how therapy helps survivors reframe traumatic events, easing pain not by erasing the past, but by transforming the memory itself. Your brain acts like a mirror, reflecting not only what happened, but also how you engage with it. But what if this mirror works in reverse too? What if your current actions send ripples backward through time, altering the very foundations of your earliest recollections? Every act of compassion could brighten a childhood memory. Every moment of doubt could shadow it. Your past self becomes a canvas painted by the choices you make today. In quantum theories of measurement, observation collapses probability into reality. Could your mind's observation do the same with personal history? When you focus attention and intention on a memory, perhaps you collapse the swirl of potential recollections into a chosen reality that aligns with your present self. And if memories are time mirrors, then your power to heal, to grow, to transcend becomes even greater. By acting with awareness and kindness now, you craft a more compassionate past, one that sustains you, guides you, and frees you from the weight of outdated fears. Your reflection may be reversed, but it is yours to shape. What if death isn't the end of consciousness, but the point at which it collapses into all versions of yourself, all at once? Imagine that, as your heart stops, your mind doesn't simply fade away. Instead, it expands, flooding into the countless possibilities of your existence across infinite timelines. In quantum mechanics, particles exist in superposition, able to be in multiple states at once. What if consciousness is the same, split across countless realities, each one a version of you, living in a different world? Imagine that, at the moment of death, your consciousness doesn't vanish, but merges with all the versions of you that have ever existed. Every choice you've made, every fork in the road, every life that could have been, and every possibility that never was, all of it floods into your awareness, all at once. In that instant, you become every version of yourself, the you who chose left, the you who chose right, the you who never took that risk, the you who lost, and the you who won, all at once. Scientists have theorized that consciousness might not be tied to a single linear existence. In quantum theory, particles can be in multiple places at once, linked across timelines. What if consciousness works the same way? At death, the mind doesn't just shut down. It reconnects to every version of itself, every version of you that ever existed in a multiverse of possibilities. It's not an end, but a collapse. A singularity where all paths converge into one intense moment of self-awareness. Maybe death isn't an escape at all. Maybe it's the grand reunion, the final convergence of all the versions of you that have ever lived, merged into one being, experiencing eternity in the span of an instant. What if this is the true meaning of existence? To finally collapse into every choice, every life you've ever lived, and finally understand the infinite potential of who you are. What if time is not a force, a flow, or a dimension, but simply a concept we invented to cope with the endless tide of change? Imagine that there is no such thing as time, only the perpetual shift of moments, constantly unfolding, but without any neat divisions. What if we created time to make sense of the world, to give us an illusion of control over the relentless, infinite flow of change? Time is not a river, it's a construct. An attempt to make the overwhelming, incomprehensible nature of existence manageable. In physics, some of the most cutting-edge theories suggest that time, as we perceive it, may not be real at all. The laws of the universe are based on change, not on some linear progression from past to future. What if the past, the present, and the future are just labels we attach to the eternal state of flux? Every moment, every shift, is part of an unbroken wave, endlessly evolving and constantly reshaping itself, with no definitive before or after. Think about the moments in your life that felt timeless. Those rare instances when you were so immersed in the present that you forgot to check the clock. In those moments, maybe you weren't experiencing time at all. Maybe you were simply immersed in the flow of change, detached from the constraints of time that your mind normally imposes. What if time only exists in the spaces where we impose it, in the gaps we try to force between the moments of our lives? You are not living within time. You are part of the unceasing change that defines existence. Every second, every heartbeat, every breath is just another expression of the flow, a moment that passes without a trace, blending into the endless transformation. Time never existed. It was just the word we invented to make change seem more understandable, more predictable, when, in reality, all we can do is ride the wave of endless becoming. Imagine you are not moving through time. You are what time looks like when awareness unfolds. You are the river of moments, shaping its flow with the contours of consciousness. Neuroscientists studying consciousness find that awareness emerges through synchronized oscillations across billions of neurons. These brainwaves create temporal patterns defining your perception of now. Gamma rhythms bring clarity, integration. The instant thought and sensation merge. Delta waves usher deep sleep, dissolving waking time. Your default mode network, the brain's background processor, generates a continuous internal narrative that binds sensory fragments into a coherent story. When it lapses, as in daydreaming or dissociation, time can fracture. Minutes vanish into ephemeral vignettes you barely grasp. Consider how your mind stitches sensory input into a seamless stream. Photons strike your retina in femtoseconds. Impulses race down axons. Synapses fire chemical messages. Yet you perceive a smooth present, You are the loom on which time is embroidered. In extreme states, meditation, flow, or life-threatening danger, temporal perception warps dramatically. Monks report moments stretching into eternity. Athletes describe action and reaction collapsing into a single timeless event. Survivors recall the world slowing to a crawl in a heartbeat. Near-death experiencers describe luminous vignettes lasting lifetimes in seconds. These reveal time as a creation of consciousness. In quantum physics, delayed choice experiments show that observation retroactively influences outcomes, blurring past and future. Particles exist in probabilistic superposition until measurement collapses possibilities. By perceiving, you mark time's passage, collapsing reality's wave function moment by moment. You are not in time. You are what time looks like, a living tapestry of awareness, knitting past, present, and future into the singular experience of now.